Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Finance Authority regular meeting agenda. Today's day is Wednesday, September the 15th, 2021. The time is 5:33. I'm going to call to order, and I'm going to take a roll call. Chairperson Javier Moreno here. Mayor Pro Tem
Here.
Garcia here. Councilmember Ureña
Here.
Councilmember Gloria Romo.
Here.
Councilmember Rosie Ariel Fernandez.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you. Due to the declaration of emergency, this meeting is being held pursuant to authorization from the governor's executive orders. Some or all the city council members may participate in this meeting by teleconference as authorized by executive order N29-20 issued by Governor of California on March 17, 2020. Pursuant to the Imperial County Public Health Department guidelines, city council meetings are now open for public attendance at a 100% capacity of the council chambers, and all persons entering City Hall will be required to wear a face mask. Public participation will continue to be available in the following ways. Members of the public are encouraged to watch the meeting via live stream at http://communityspectrum.org/live at 6:30 p.m. or via the Calexico City Hall Facebook page at https://www.facebook.com City of Calexico, California. Members of the public will be able to make public comments in the following ways. 1. In person. 2. Submit public comments via email by 2 p.m. on Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. 2. Our city clerk, G. Garcia at calexicoca.gov or via fax to 760-768-2103. These comments will be read aloud during the meeting. Public comments not to exceed 3 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the City Council on closed session items only. During the current state of emergency, public comments will be received in the following ways. In-person comments, the mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay City Council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. 2. Submit public comments via email by 2 p.m. on Wednesday, September 15, 2021 to our city clerk at ggarcia@calexico.ca.gov or via fax to 760-768-2103. Any comments received during or after the meeting will be distributed to the City Council and retained for the official record. The City Council is prohibited by state law from making action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. I believe we have one public comment.
Yes, we have Mr. David Garcia.
Okay, he's on the line.
Go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
A negotiator for the members of the water operators in Calexico. And, you know, I wanted to speak just to let the council know that we are trying to make strides to understand the city's position. We are providing reasonable counter proposals, and we are hoping that the city can take into account that the members would like to settle the contract and get an agreement between the city of Calexico and SCIU Local 221. There are, items that we've talked about, adjusting the amount for the signing bonus from the amount that the city had proposed to bring it up a bit, even up to maybe $1,500. We've also proposed that we understand the January raise is something that the city's concerned about revenue, and we are asking that we've even offered a trigger clause that if the city doesn't see a revenue increase in the revenue for the city, that there would be none, with the exception of maybe a 1%. The members are trying to come back and find a reasonable way. We're hoping the city council can recognize that we are making good faith efforts to understand where the city is, but we also ask that the city recognize that the members have not seen raises in a while. They are the prices of gas, groceries, all sorts of utilities are all going up, and they are struggling to make ends meet. We're just asking the city to give a reasonable counter proposal that we can take back to our members and to come to a conclusion on these negotiations. I know I've been working with the city manager and HR, but I think we're just asking for a reasonable counter proposal, and we have offered reasonable counter proposals, but there just seems to be this lag and in communications. We really do hope that the city council can see its way to making reasonable counter proposals for our members who are still suffering from the pandemic and are making every effort to continue to work hard, keep the city's infrastructure moving forward and taken care of. But they also ask that the city take care of them as well. And we're not asking for the moon. We're just asking for a small piece that our members will be able to continue until the next contract. So that concludes my statements, but we are hoping the city will come back with a reasonable counter proposal that we can take back to our members. Our members are very adamant about something in January, and we have offered a counter proposal. We hope the city will consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Mr. David Garcia speaking on item number 1, labor negotiations. We don't have anybody else, do we?
No, not for closed session.
Okay. Thank you. A closed session of the City of Calexico Community Redevelopment Agency successor agency, Calexico Finance Authority, may be held in accordance with state law, which may include, but it's not limited to, the following types of items: personnel matters, labor negotiations, security matters, providing instructions to real property negotiations, and conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation. The closed session will be held in the City Hall conference room located at 608 Heber Avenue, Calexico, California. Any public comment on closed session items will be taken before the closed session. Any required announcements or discussion or closed session items or actions following the closed session will be made in the City Council chambers at 608 Heber Avenue, Calexico, California. It is now 6:40. We will now adjourn to closed session. Good evening. Today is the Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Finance Authority regular meeting agenda. Today is Wednesday, September the 15th, 2021. The time is 6:34, and we're going to call roll call. Mayor Moreno here. Mayor Pro Tem
Here.
Councilmember Ureña.
Here.
Councilmember Gloria Romo.
Here.
Councilmember Rosie Arreola Fernandez.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Please, I'm going to ask you to stand up for a pledge of allegiance. Mr. Figueroa, can you do us a favor?
Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. And we have the mission statement pledge. Mr. Ureña, can you help us with that?
Sure. City of Calexico mission statement. Together, we pledge to provide effective and efficient services in a courteous and respectful manner to improve the quality of life for all in our unique border community. Viva Calexico.
And please remain standing for the invocation. Councilwoman Romo, can you help us with that?
Oh, yes, thank you. Padre misericordioso, te damos gracias, Señor, por este día, por estar aquí presentes Te damos gracias también porque de alguna manera nos has apoyado en esta pandemia. Te pedimos por cada uno de los habitantes de Calexico, muy en especialmente por todos aquellos que se encuentran en el hospital. Te doy gracias, Señor, porque el día de hoy se celebran los 211 años de la independencia de México. Todo te lo pido en el nombre de Jesucristo nuestro Señor. Amén.
Thank you. Please have a seat. And we now have the approval of the agenda. So moved. Second.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, we do have one emergency item that we need to add to the agenda.
Yes.
It's approval of the attendance of the mayor, mayor pro tem, and city manager, the inauguration of the city of Mexicali mayor-elect Norma Bustamante. So at this point, we would need to take a motion to add this item to the agenda.
So you want me to put it to the discussion potential action item?
Yeah, we would recommend you add it at, as item number, it could be an item number 20
Number 20?
to the agenda. So we would need a motion to add that item and a second as well.
Okay, so
19B maybe, because you have an item 20? And 19.
Good point. We can then add it at 19B.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the emergency item.
okay,
Motion
anybody?
is to add the item.
Yes?
Yeah.
Second by Romo? Okay.
Just a clarification, the first motion just to add the
Yeah,
item to the agenda, and then the second, we'll take a second motion, and then approve of the agenda. So it's just two-step process.
Okay, okay.
So we got the first motion to approve the agenda. and then-
Correct. We have a first, do we have a second on that motion to add it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We can take a
Okay,
roll call.
so we're going to vote now. We're going to vote. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye? Aye. Okay, motion carried 5-0. Now to your appointment.
And
is,
then now, we would need a motion to approve the agenda.
I hear a motion to approve the agenda.
Or anybody second that?
I'll second.
Serena? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? None? Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. All right. Now we have presentations. We do have visit by Honorable Counsel, Mr. Navarrete. Before I bring him up here, he's going to speak on behalf of the festivities they have celebrating. I am going to read something in Spanish. Cada año México reconoce el 16 de septiembre como el día de su fiesta nacional en conmemoración de su independencia nacional. Estados Unidos es el país que más celebra el día festivo fuera de México, dado que alrededor de 36 millones de mexicanos viven en nuestro país. En nuestro municipio, la fuerza demográfica y cultural de la comunidad mexicana impulsa la celebración anual de las fiestas patrias. Hoy, en afirmación, el Día de la Independencia de México, durante esta Junta del Cabildo, en conmemoración, queremos reconocer y felicitar por su labor realizada por el cónsul Tarciso Navarrete Montes de Oca, así como todo su personal por su compromiso hacia nuestra comunidad mexicana. Como alcalde, mi voluntad es poder continuar precisamente ese desempeño de nuestra responsabilidad. Tenemos que trabajar siempre como equipo, en el que prevalezca la consecución de los objetivos comunes, de nuestro objetivo absolutamente prioritario de servir a la ciudadanía por encima de todo. Desde aquí y en nombre de la Corporación Municipal que me honra presidir, solo me queda desear un feliz día festivo junto a nuestras familias mexicanas. Para finalizar, quiero compartir la frase siguiente: sin importar el tamaño de la ciudad o el pueblo en donde nacen los hombres o las mujeres, ellos son finalmente del tamaño de su obra, del tamaño de su voluntad de engrandecer y de enriquecer a sus hermanos. Ignacio Allende. Gracias, viva Calexico, viva México. Señor Navarrete. ¿Si gusta pasar a decir algo?
Muy buenas tardes. Saludo al señor alcalde, a todos los miembros del Consejo del Council, Figueroa, señor Attorney, mucho gusto, y al público en general. Le quisiera decir que estamos dos miembros del consulado, Mario Figueroa, y su servidor, el cónsul Tarcisio Navarrete. Solamente para agradecer las palabras, señor alcalde, que ha tenido con motivo de la fiesta nacional. Creo que es un orgullo que estamos juntos en una frontera que nos une en muchos aspectos. Todos amamos la libertad, todos queremos mayor justicia para nuestros connacionales y en eso estamos trabajando. Hay una gran alianza y quisiera decirles a todos ustedes que ha sido una gran tradición de nosotros cooperar para lograr esto. Dificultades no faltan, recursos no hay muchas veces suficientes, pero estoy seguro que con fe y con voluntad seguiremos trabajando con la alcaldía como se ha hecho todos estos años. Señor presidente, señores miembros del concilio, ustedes son muy importantes, no por el cargo, sino por el corazón y la voluntad que ustedes ponen. Seguramente contaremos con ese corazón, con esa voluntad para trabajar juntos. Y por eso deseamos hacer de este momento un canto a la esperanza y a la alegría, a la fe. Y cuando hablamos de canto, decimos música, música para todos, para nuestros oídos. Y hoy vamos a presentar un toque musical con permiso de la autoridad aquí representada. Y gracias por la propuesta. Nosotros vamos a cantar algo porque música es cultura, cultura es identidad e identidad es armonía y paz. Por eso este canto que habla de México lindo y querido lo interpretaremos no profesionalmente, pero con mucho corazón para todos ustedes. Un toque que les agradecemos nos hayan permitido entrar en este sagrado recinto para cantar juntos esta melodía. Me voy a sentar en la silla, yo creo, si me permite.
Sí, claro que sí.
Gracias. Y con esto
Cónsul, ¿le van a poner un micrófono? Sí, 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 acércalo para que se oiga. Para que se oiga. Gracias.
Despertar la mañana, quiere cantar la alegría a mi tierra mexicana. Yo le canto a sus volcanes, a sus praderas y flores, que son como talismanes del amor de mis amores. México lindo y querido, si de hombres cabales, voz de la guitarra mía, al despertar la mañana, quiere cantar la alegría a mi tierra mexicana. México lindo y querido, si muero lejos de ti, que digan que estoy dormido y que me traigan aquí, que digan que estoy dormido y que me traigan aquí. México lindo y querido, si muero lejos de ti.
Bravo.
Muchas gracias por ese hermoso detalle. Gracias.
Gracias, Mario.
Le levanta uno el espíritu.
Gracias. Sí, por supuesto. Muy amable. Gracias. Que esté bien. Gracias. Gracias.
Señor, gracias.
So we now have the proclamation in honor of the 100-year celebration of the Robert Morales Adult Education Center. Whereas adult education is celebrating its 100th anniversary of dedicated service to Calexico's adult students, and whereas Calexico adult education provides instruction to those adults needing English as a second language, computer skills, GED high school diploma, and
Whereas Calexico Adult Education graduates more than 20 students every year with an adult high school diploma and work together with the local college to help these students pursue a post-secondary education. And whereas Calexico Adult Education provides GED preparation to help students pass the test, which allows them to obtain their much-needed GED certificate to enter the workforce. And whereas Calexico Adult Education provides citizenship classes, preparing students to successfully pass that naturalization exam and become U.S. citizens. And
Whereas Calexico Adult Education offers vocational training programs preparing students for the workforce. And whereas Robert F. Morales Adult Education Center certified 10 clerical medical administrative assistants and 4 billing and coding specialists in the 2020 to 2021 year through the National Health Career Association. And whereas Calexico Adult Education gears students to pursue a career and or obtain work readiness skills to become productive citizens of the community. And
Whereas Calexico Adult Education has been serving the citizens of Calexico for 100 years and prides itself on the accomplishment made by the student and the staff to build a better community. And
Whereas Calexico Adult Education promote the success, self-esteem, academic progress of adult students, motivating lifelong learning to facilitate achievement of personal and professional goals. And
now therefore I, Javier Moreno, Mayor of the City of Calexico, do hereby proclaim October 5th, 2021 as the Centennial celebration of Calexico Adult Education Center in the City of Calexico, and salute the director, teachers, staff, and students for their hard work and accomplishments. In witness whereof, I hereunto affix my signature and official seal of the City of Calexico on this 15th day of September 2021. And congratulations. We don't have anybody representing the, I don't think so. No. So what's going to happen is that I believe on the week of October, Mr. Figueroa, they're going to have the celebration at San Diego State University, and that's where we're going to be issuing the proclamation official. And so what I'll do is I will speak at that event and I will personally give that proclamation. On this one?
On number 2.
Oh, okay. So I believe, that's right. That's correct. Thank you. I believe we have a public comments. Can we speak on public comments? Somebody wants to speak on item number 2,
On what?
on this item.
Yeah, for the presentation item?
Okay.
Yeah, generally public comments are for the public comments, obviously.
So they'll be able to speak on that.
That would be the appropriate
Yeah,
place.
but on presentation.
Correct.
So I believe that's a verification on it. Thank you. Okay, moving up to item 4, mayoral recognition for the 20th anniversary of Alegria Adult Daycare. And I do have something to say on that. We have a representative here from Adult Daycare, Alegria. For 20 years, Alegria is a licensed and adult daycare program designed to provide care with social activities and supervision to meet the needs of more elder adults in our city. Alegria is a licensed adult daycare program designed to provide care with social activities and supervision and monitoring of healthcare and nutrition, as well as to meet the needs of older adults in a protective environment. I believe we do have a representative from the Alegria to want to speak a few words. We have Blanca, the director, that's founder, director, CEO.
Good afternoon. My name is Blanca Verdugo. I'm one of the owners of Alegria Adult Day Health Care. With me is Willy Carrillo. He's one of my right hands at Alegria. We are here to thank you for this recognition, and we are also here to thank you for all the help you have provided us during all these 20 years. Yes, Alegria has turned 20 years in this month, and we hope that we are gonna continue being around for many, many more years, hopefully. We will also like to invite you to visit our facility. We are behind El Centro Regional Medical Center, and I'm pretty sure that if you go and visit us, of course we are gonna give you a tour, and you are gonna learn how a nice and important program it is for the adult people of this community, especially for the senior citizens. So we would love to see you visiting us pretty soon. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you for your accomplishment for 20 years. So now moving up to item number 5 on presentation by Candace Wong, 10 Over Studios of the new fire station headquarters project.
Candice, the city clerk just walked out and she has the presentation for, I think so. So could we maybe run on item number 6 until she comes back?
Okay. What, a few minutes?
If that's appropriate.
That's fine.
Sure, okay, all right, well, thank you.
Okay.
All right, we'll put that on hold. We have item number 6, update presentation on American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, as presented by our Finance Director, Carla Lovatos.
Okay, Mayor, council members, members of the audience and the community that are following us. The purpose of this presentation is to give the City Council a status update of the American Rescue Plan Act, what we come to know as ARPA. One thing that it's important for all of us to know is that a final ruling on the guidelines has not been issued. However, we have enough information that has been provided where we can move forward and begin to address some of the most important needs that we have that ARPA can assist Calexico with. So with that said, can we go to the next slide, please? The purpose of the presentation, like I said, is to discuss ARPA allocation specifically as it pertains to the city of Calexico. Discuss also the governing body that oversees and will make sure that the expenditures fall within the guidelines, which is the U.S. Treasury Department, the distribution process of the monies, the reporting requirements, and then we'll have an opportunity to just have a Q&A if the council so desires. Next slide, please. One of the things that we had been discussing for a while now, but one of the things that we want to emphasize as we discuss ARPA is the purpose of why ARPA is now a law that has been able to provide relief to local governments throughout the country. It's obviously to address the impacts of COVID-19, the coronavirus. One of the things also that ARPA does is it established a recovery fund. This recovery fund is what's being used to disseminate and make the allocations to the government entities throughout the country. One of the things is that every community has been impacted in a different way as a result of COVID-19. Here in Calexico, as we all know, we are a border community that does consider a lot of the tourist crossings that come into our city for our sales tax and for the sustainability of our city budget. One thing that it's very clear and obvious for all of us that live here in Imperial County is that to this day, since March of 2020, when the executive order was issued, we still do not have the tourist crossings that I aforementioned in my previous statement. That is why right now, the allocation, which we'll get into the detail that Calexico received, is vital to keep not only the operations of our city, but also the support of our economy, which is made up of businesses, not only that may be made up of national retail stores, but most importantly, the homegrown businesses, the local businesses, the mom and pop stores that we still have in Calexico that have obviously been affected by COVID-19. Next slide, please. Ms. Lovatos, can you please touch on the allocation?
Sure. The state of California received $26 billion. Counties received up to $7.7 billion, metropolitan cities $7 billion, and small cities, which is population under 50,000, $1.2 billion. This was distributed amongst all of the cities. The city of Calexico received an allocation of $9.5 million, and this was received 50% by July 13th. So we have received the 50% already. So we received 4.7 million already, and the next 50% will be received within the next 12 months. So these monies need to be obligated by December 31st of 2024 and spent it by December 31st of 2026. This is a requirement, and if the funds are not spent or committed or obligated, they need to be returned to the federal government.
Before we proceed to the next slide, there are a couple of things that stand out from what you're seeing right now in front of you. One thing is that we know by when the monies need to be allocated to the specific projects that are going to be done in Calexico. The second thing is that we know by when we need to expend them. One of the most important things that we need to be clear on is every single penny that is used from ARPA monies moving forward will be audited. That's why it's very important that we do our due diligence on the administrative side and on the governing side, in this case the City Council, to make sure that every expenditure that we incur aligns with what the U.S. Treasury Department has issued in their various forms of guidelines. Because they've been, like guidelines, in this case, they're a living document which has been updated constantly. On our end, we've done our best job possible to make sure that we use all of the communication resources that the federal government and that the state have issued to inform us as to how those expenditures can be carried forward with. One of the other things that I do want to say is, if these monies at some point, if we incur any expense and it turns out that it's not ARPA eligible, the city's general fund would have to make up that money. As a result of our current fiscal conditions in Calexico, it's imperative that we do our due diligence on the administration side to recommend projects to this city council that are 100% identified as eligible uses of the money under ARPA and its guidelines. Next slide, please.
Now, one thing that I would like to mention, the final ruling has not been issued. We only have interim ruling. So, and another thing that's important to mention, we do not have to use all the money. We can, at some point, we can say we do not want the $9 million. We can say, you know what, we want to stay with 7. It doesn't. We don't have to use it all. We can say, you know what, we don't have all the projects that you're telling us to do, because it is very specific as to how the money needs to be used. It cannot be used just for anything we want. There are very specific uses, and it needs to be used for that. We cannot just use the money for whatever we feel we need to. There are very specific uses, and it needs to be used for that. So we need, as Mr. Figueroa mentioned, we need to be very careful of how we use the money, because if it's not used for their eligible uses, the money at the time it's audited, there will be reporting that needs to be done, and at the time of reporting, if they find it ineligible, we will need to pay it out of our general fund. And as you well know, we do not have the capacity to pay it out of our general fund. So we need to be very careful on how we approve the uses of these ARPA monies. So now if we go into the U.S. Treasury interim ruling, the funding is subject to the requirements specified in the interim ruling. The last code that has been issued was on May 17.
That's the CFR, correct?
The CFR, correct. There had been talks that they were going to issue a final ruling on July 16. As of now, nothing has been issued. I checked regularly, nothing has been issued as of today. We're still waiting. They're still following the state and the federal FEMA and CARES Act rules that they had issued in the past, but nothing final yet.
So one of the things that's important here is, I also want to make sure that we're not discouraged from moving forward on addressing some of the needs that can be covered under ARPA. So there are some important items that we have in Calexico that specifically have been already identified in the guidelines as eligible uses. Next slide, please. And those are the ones that are identified here. It's obviously responding to the COVID-19 public health emergency and support various activities to decrease the spread of the virus, address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency. I think this one is one that stands out, that specifically we've been unfortunately victims of here in Calexico. Replace lost public sector revenue due to the pandemic. I want to be clear on this item. This is the revenue loss component that ARPA allows us to use. One thing that I do want to be clear on is the time frame that ARPA encompasses is March 2020 all the way through June 2021. What that means is that period of time covers 2 fiscal years. Remember, we run a fiscal year that runs from July 1st through June 30th. What that means is that for any revenue loss that we experienced from July 1st of 2020 all the way up through June 30th of 2021, we need to close out that budget, meaning we need to do our year-end closure and make sure that we have the factual and actual numbers as it pertains to revenue loss. That's why it's critical, and that's why my staff has been doing their part, my department heads, to make sure that they provide all the necessary information that the finance department needs so we can close out fiscal year 2021. With that, we're now able to go ahead and use the component of the public sector revenue loss, which is one that's going to be very important for us to consider. So that's a very important point that we need to understand. We need to close out the year from a finance department perspective, and then from there, those numbers will allow us to move forward with the revenue loss recovery component. One of the other items that's out there is the premium paid to eligible workers. I want to thank the City Council because you folks have already, in the form of a resolution, per the requirements of the U.S. Treasury Department, identified who in Calexico on the city employee side qualifies as an eligible worker. So we've done our due diligence and we've taken care of it. So that's the first step, which we took already. The last item, it's invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Again, another critical item, because if there is one thing that we can benefit from in Calexico, is improving our IT infrastructure. And this is something that falls as an eligible use of ARPA monies. Next slide, please. Want to touch on this?
Right. Well, when we submitted our application to the state, there were some steps that we needed to follow through, and which we have already done. To accept the funds, cities and towns needed to follow a certification, which was provide to taxpayer ID, DUNS number, and contact information, sign certification forms, total annual operating budgets. All of this was submitted to the state already, sign award terms and conditions, sign assurances of compliance of Title VI of the Civil Rights, and state will use this banking information to transfer the funds. Again, the city already followed through with all of this certification as we have already received the funds. We've done our due diligence and followed through all of the steps that we needed to.
Next slide, please.
So at this point, we are ready to present to you the first suggested use of these funds.
So let me walk the City Council through this slide. One thing that's important to note is, out of the eligible uses that are clearly identified by ARPA, public safety is one that stands out. Just for the nature that a lot of the individuals that make up public safety, not only in Calexico, but in every government entity, played a critical role in combating and addressing the issues that came up as a result of the coronavirus. I also want to point out that aside from that, there are a group of people that stood up and were able to keep the city running through these critical times. And that includes every department in the city of Calexico. That includes primarily those that on a day in, day out basis allow for us to have the basic services in our homes for all of us that live in Calexico. That obviously incorporates and considers the Public Works Department, the Public Safety Departments that provide that critical service to our city, but also at the same time, those that allow for us to continue to operate on the administration level. And on the administration level, that also incorporates and includes some of the social service departments that we have in our city, that were able to continue to provide their service to the community in trying times where people were not able to go out and conduct their normal life. We were able to be creative and replicate models in the recreation and in the library departments to continue to have that service to our community. For some of us, we may not use it as much as others do, but if there is one thing that we realize is that we have a vast sector in our community that does depend on those services. So we have those that provide the basic services for all of us that live in Calexico. We have those providers also as well that we're able to address the mental health components, that if we learned something about this pandemic, is that it's a huge priority right now. So with all that said, at this point right now, this first proposal, and I want to make emphasis, this is the first proposal that we're bringing to City Council, and at this moment, no action is being requested. This is simply a presentation as to the recommendation coming from staff, which will follow with subsequent proposals of other uses that are going to address the other needs that we have in Calexico. With that said, we have the fleet replacement project for both the fire department and the police department. We had a conversation as to what were the needs, and what you have here is in front of you is what was identified. What you have here is from the fire department, 2 fire rescue ambulances, 3 fire utility vehicles with an estimated total cost of $674,000. We have from the police department 6 fully equipped patrol vehicles, 2 pickup truck fully equipped vehicles that come to an estimated total of $604,000. So with that said, like I said, the idea, the concept here is to have this presentation, to share this information, and at the following meeting, if this is an item that we wish to proceed with, we will bring it back to you folks on the discussion action calendar. Next slide, please.
Now, as we had touched on, there will be some reporting requirements. Small cities and towns will be required to submit a project and expenditure report to the U.S. Treasury annually. In addition to reporting requirement, small cities and towns will be asked to provide new recipient numbers, copy of signed awards, terms and conditions and agreements, copy of signed assurances and compliances, and copy of the budgets. Not only this, we need to submit a report of all the expenditures, copy of absolutely every invoice, and copy of the purchase orders and copy of signed purchase orders and invoices. So we're going through that right now with CARES and FEMA. So I know all the requirements, and actually it's quite a lot of work. So I know how intensive it is to go through all of these reporting issues. It's not as simple as just saying we need to provide a report. It's a lot of work. So that's what I'm saying. That's why when I tell you it's a lot of requirements, and I know what it is that would go through. This is just an audit, just like it would be for anything else. It's actually a little bit more intensive than just an audit through a third-party audit. So that's why it's so important that we follow through and that we are very careful when we approve what the uses are for these ARPA monies. So this would be very important if when we bring it up to you that you decide on what we bring to you is something that we do really, it's vetted, and that we know it would be an eligible use.
Next slide, please, Susan. So this slide touches on some of the specific deadlines that we have that were discussed right now by the finance director as to when the first reports are due that we need to submit. And as you can see there, there's literally one right around the corner that's going to be due by the end of October. Not to be redundant, but some of the specific information that it's important for all of us to be aware of is that there is the records and supporting documents are to be kept for a period of 5 years. And again, this is not us coming up with this. This is pretty much the guideline of what we're being told that we need to do. And I believe this was brought up at the beginning of the presentation, but there's still further guidance that will be coming down from the U.S. Treasury. Next slide, please. One of the things here that we wanted to include was, so the Code of Federal Regulations has specific requirements, and there are some notable exceptions that, Carla, can you please touch on them?
So some of the exceptions are for it is just from COVID to what ARPA would be considered. Staff, when they work more than half of their time dedicated to COVID, they will be considered as full-time dedicated to COVID, when maybe CFR or CARES or FEMA would not consider them full-time. ARPA will consider them as full-time employees for ARPA. So there are some notable exceptions, and at the time when we do our reporting, at the time we do our record keeping, that's when we start doing all of these differentiate employees and expenditures and revenue replacement. This is when we start getting into the differences and variances on how we report and how we do our record keeping, and this is kind of when it starts getting into a little bit more detail, and this is how it gets complicated at the time we report and we keep our records. So this is how it gets more delicate as how we're doing all of these, like this, our reporting and how we decide how we're going to use our monies.
I look at this as an opportunity, right? This slide and the 4 or 5 elements that are listed are an opportunity that gives the city flexibility, aside from the Code of Federal Regulation, which is pretty much the guideline that must be followed. In this case, like it's mentioned up there, there are some exceptions under ARPA, just because of the nature of what ARPA is intended to do. And at the end of the day, what it's looking to accomplish is supporting some needs that specifically, if you look at CFRs, would be maybe very tight-closed as to the flexibility of uses. This allows us to address some of the specific needs that we have because of the pandemic. Next slide, please. These are 4 links that we included here that address the basic information related to ARPA. It also addresses some of the most common questions that surface for local governments as a result of ARPA allocations. So basically what we're trying to show here is that we're up to date on every information outlet that's out there that provides guidelines on ARPA and what can be done and what cannot be done. On that note, that concludes this presentation, but obviously we're here to answer any comments or questions you folks may have.
Anybody have comments? Mr. Rodriguez?
Just a very brief question. Mr. Figueroa, what is the status of affordable housing expenditures? Are those still allowed under the current rules, or has that changed?
I'll circle back to a comment Ms. Lovatos made. And there is still policy in place that is still effective from the previous efforts that the federal government did that provided support for some of the, or the example that you're given. I do want to point something out. Aside from ARPA, the city has other funding sources that have been provided through the state by the feds, so we can provide some relief on other specific matters. Specifically being housing one of them, that we have actually through HCD, through rounds 2 and 3 of the CDBG CV program that they put out.
Okay, sounds good.
Question, Miguel. Questions and comments. I do appreciate it, that the work that was done on putting this presentation together and for us to be able to digest also this information. But most of all, I think you said something at the end, of the presentation. I think that is key. This is an opportunity. This is a heck of an opportunity for us as a city. I understand, Carla, what you also mentioned about, making sure that we have the guidelines, making sure that we stick to the directions and directives that are issued by the Treasury Department. So, and I understand also that there's no final rule yet. But one thing that I wouldn't like to see done or happen is return any money. Because, not even consider. And I understand all the work that, I want to understand and I empathize with you, the work that it takes. But this is, again, once in a lifetime opportunity that we have. And I think that also we're given some preliminary, suggestions, guidelines as to how we can spend these monies. So with that, what I would like to see, I know we have some examples as to how we can spend these monies, whether it's buying some equipment, but, that is about $1.2 million. Still very short of what we have. And I know that there's some other plans too. But also, there's some other suggestions such as investing in water, sewer, broadband. So, and I think later on in our agenda, item 14, we're going to be discussing about that, something about our sewer. And I'll speak to that also, how we can probably see how we can create a plan that is not just a plan, but some sort of system that instead of, discovering as we dig, literally as we dig for repairs or, mostly repairs, create some sort of preventive, if that's allowable, to deal with our sewer, with our water system. I think this will be something that if allowed, that will be perfect. And I know we have some funding, but this is in addition to. So I would really like for you to look into that, Miguel. See how we can come up with some sort of system, some sort of a strategy that is not just responsive, but preventive. That's on one. Then also you mentioned broadband and maybe updating our systems, our IT systems, which are badly needed. And I know we had discussed previously how we could address some of those needs, including waiting for that, projector to light up. It took about 10 minutes.
Yes, and Mr. Garcia, just to touch on that, when I said that we don't have to use it all, it was just a suggestion.
No, and I get that, trust me.
We just need to make sure that we use the money on the eligible uses. Now, if it's IT broadband, it needs to be citywide. It's not just for the city building. It has to be something that would service our entire population. Now, we do have the good, and I guess it's good and bad for us, because we have a population that's low income. So there's a lot of things that we can justify because our population is underserved. So there's a lot of uses that we can justify because our population is underserved. And that's one of the reasons why we can justify a lot of our uses. So the more we can do for our community, the better. But it has to serve our community. It's not just for us at City Hall. So it
No.
serve our community.
And I didn't imply that this should be for City Hall, right?
Right.
What I'm saying is that this is for the community, whether it's sewer, water, again, for improving infrastructure, whether it's connectivity. I'm not saying that this should be the last thing to be considered. We had a plan, but unfortunately that plan just went down the drain, 2 weeks ago. But I'm not gonna get into that. For now, we need to strategize. I know there's potential for partnerships with the local school district. I know they're investing in infrastructure for broadband. We learned a lot from COVID, from our children, from our population, needing access to, internet, communications. Even some of the things that we're offering as a city, there is a huge need for connectivity, reliable connectivity. So I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about our community. I'm talking about making sure that we're able to provide these services, and I think these monies would do that. But, again, we can plan, we can be strategic, we can be also proactive. I think we shouldn't have a problem, meeting these expectations and spending this money.
Mayor Pro Tem, I do want to highlight something that you mentioned. And I do want to bring up because, not too long ago, this council approved our budget for this fiscal year. And we went through the whole budget process in which we had staff members come up and pretty much tell us a list of needs that they have. And like I said, I stay away from saying the word wish list because we don't have wish lists. We have needs that need to get addressed. And just in some of the uses like that are outlined there on slide 6, which is the water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure that you touched on, I would really, aside from having a capital improvement program that's been approved, that we need to expand, that doesn't take away from addressing still water and sewer improvements that are needed that are going to entice us as a city to attract development, right? And I think that's been long overdue, and I think we do have what I consider to be professionals in the field on the water and wastewater side that are employed by the city that would be extremely happy to know, them being the people that deal with this on a daily basis, what we can come up with precisely to do that will improve many of the needs that align with what ARPA allows. So I made a note of that statement you made because I concur that that is something that will have a long-lasting effect in Calexico as a result of this one-time opportunity.
Also, I have a question again.
Yes, ma'am.
Like for our downtown, some of that money, could we use it somehow for downtown purposes, like, you know, let's say a steam cleaner or you know, to clean our streets? Or
Like the number one thing that is being touched on, right, is stopping the spread of COVID-19. That's pretty much the thing that stands out is stopping the spread. So stopping the spread in a public space is definitely something which if you guys recall, we had a brief conversation about this, and even this council actually approved with limitations, obviously, on the monies that we wanted to destine that came down from the state and HCD. We actually began to address that. Well, this can be a good opportunity to complement that because we were not able to get everything that we wanted because we knew that we had to spread that state money across the board. Well, this can definitely come back and continue to complement those efforts that this council already has prioritized.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question.
Thank you.
Mr. Figueroa, I have a question. Mr. Figueroa, I understand this plan is a general plan, but we need more specific plan. Is possible other information more specific for the plan in the next meeting?
So let me share something with you, absolutely. So we're sticking into the items that are listed here as eligible uses. Like I mentioned when we were conducting the presentation, some of those eligible uses right now are contingent on us as a city administration completing some of the basic requirements that other government agencies that we must follow, like the Department of Finance, like the State Auditor's Office, requires of us. So absolutely, the answer is yes, Councilwoman Romo. The reason why we included a proposal for one element here is because, one, we clearly have identified, like Ms. Lovatos mentioned, for it to be an eligible expenditure. We know it's a dying need. Staff and some of the bargaining units have been very clear publicly in this setting that those are some of the items that we need to be looking into to provide a better service. That's why we included that. We're going to come back at the next meeting specifically with an item on our discussion action calendar on that matter, and we will continue to provide some of the requests that the council is making to us on this item.
Yeah, perfect. More transparency is very important.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I make a comment? Mayor, can I make a comment?
Hold on, Mr. Gonzalez. It's not public comments.
Well, you guys are in discussion.
That's not that, but go ahead.
First of all, you got to remember that Javier Gonzalez, 237 Hernandez, you have to remember that there is a infrastructure bill, 3.4 trillion, that will include water infrastructure. Maybe you want to take into consideration. But just looking at number 3, that opens the door to use it for anything, because pandemic closing stores, closing the border, it affected everything. So I see number 3 as you can use it for whatever you want.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No?
No.
All right. Thank you for your presentation.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we have one pending still from the Candace Wong. Is it?
Mr. Garcia, David Garcia.
Thank you.
He wanted to speak on, you have one?
Yes.
Okay.
Lo apagues, por favor. Reel it in.
City Council, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, city manager. My name is David Garcias. I'm the representative for the water operators from SEIU Local 221. And I'd just like to say we at SEIU and the members do support the ARPA funding, but also we want to make sure that the city recognizes those essential workers that have put their well-being, physical well-being at risk to meet the daily needs of their community during the pandemic. Through funds provided by ARPA, the city could provide a one-time essential worker premium stipend to those employees deemed essential by the city manager. And they were exposed to COVID-19 during their on-site work, their field work, while performing the essential and critical infrastructure sectors of the city's operation. Certain services of the city were defined as essential and critical infrastructure work. I myself have been working with several communities now, and we have been settling agreements on the distribution of money to the essential workers as part of this premium. And I've provided some of those documents to the city manager, finance director, and HR. And the city has, these other cities, similar size to Calexico, have been able to provide these one-time funds to really be able to help our members be able to sort of cope with what happened during the pandemic. Some of them were sick. Some of them got others sick. Many people got sick. Even SEIU helped the members get vaccinated during the pandemic. So we hope the city will consider a stipend for those essential workers. I know I've already finished an agreement at the city of Imperial Beach. We've worked on agreements at the city of Encinitas, Chula Vista, National City, and so we've been working around the state to be able to help these essential workers see some type of recognition for the sacrifices they took while they kept the city working, the infrastructure moving for our communities and for the public. And I'd just like to say I'll continue to provide the information to the city manager, but some items, we are looking at trying to be similar to these other cities that have invested in their essential workers for the sacrifice they took. So thank you very much, and I look forward to continuing to work with the city manager with some type of essential worker premium for these workers. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Candace Wong.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I'm Candace Wong with Tenover Studio. I'm a project architect on the fire station project. And it's been my privilege to serve this community and the fire department for, since 2009, I think is when we first started with a study for the project. I want to thank you for allowing us time to do this presentation for you. I'm here supported by Chief Avila and the Oakview constructor team. They're here as well if you have questions that are specific to the construction. The presentation will be fairly brief. There's a lot of photos, and I'll explain a few issues that we've encountered.
I'm sorry, Gary, what's that? Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can I request a 5-minute recess, please?
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whenever you want to start, Ms. Wong.
Okay. Gabby's going to assist me with moving the slides. So this first slide, you can see is the existing fire station as it was before we started construction. Next slide, please, Gabby. So I just wanted to cover some.
I'm just going to cover some construction activities, the project schedule, project budget, and then questions and answers. Next slide, please. So the building exterior, you can see it when you look across the street. We are currently in lath and plaster. And so we have the building paper up, the lath is up, and tomorrow you will see plaster workers putting on the scratch coat, which will take approximately 4 days. And then the brown coat will go on, and then there'll be a curing period of 21 days. So you'll see no activities for several weeks because that is the recommended time that we needed to cure before the finish coat. Next slide, please, Gabby. Doors and windows and glazing are all going to be coming in soon. They're already on site, some of the materials, and so you'll be seeing some changes there for the exterior envelope. Next slide, please. And then up top on the roof, we already have the roof up. We have some equipment that needs to come. So we have mechanical equipment that's still anticipated, and we'll be finishing up that work pretty soon here, within the next month or two. Next slide, please, Gabby. So on the building interior, you can see that if you were to look inside, you can still see that the walls are open. You can see the insulation, and you can see all the mechanical work, plumbing, and electrical roughed in. So this is a great time for us to inspect everything before it gets covered up. Next slide. So drywall has started on certain walls where we have done the inspections. And so what you're seeing here is a view of the kitchen from the dining room, and another view from the day room into the dining room and kitchen. So this is one of the spaces inside the fire station. And once we get the drywall on, then interior finishes will start. Next slide. So we do have some equipment and infrastructure that has already been completed on site. So all of the utilities that come to the building, plumbing, water, fire, water, electrical has already been installed and covered up, so you don't see it anymore. What you see is dirt until we're ready to pave. And what you see on the middle picture that's smaller is the emergency generator. And it's a very important piece of how we're going to keep the fire station running during emergencies. Next slide. So just touching on schedule really quickly, the original construction duration was 365 days, so exactly 1 year. We started construction in August of 2020 during the pandemic, and as with the pandemic, certain things have happened with supply chain and just some delays in the workforce, but the major construction impacts happened, and I kind of highlighted the 4 that have impacted the project schedule. So we knew there was hazardous materials in the existing building. We had a report done and a strategy for removing it. What we found once we got into it is that we found more hazardous materials, and so it took longer. Gabby, you can go to the next slide there. And so you can see inside the building, it was a CMU building. So it's concrete masonry. And the concrete masonry had arsenic embedded in the block. And so to remove that was a very laborious work, and you had to do it very carefully as well because it's hazardous material. The demolition, so therefore the demolition took longer because the hazardous material removal took longer. And we did find more of it than we anticipated. Next slide, please, Gabby. Public safety communications. So if you remember, there was an existing antenna that's 90 feet tall that served both police and fire. That was kind of in the middle, in between the two buildings. And one of the things that we had to do was work around it until we had the new tower up in place so that we could move the existing antennas and infrastructure from the old antenna to the new antenna. And so there's a few photos here that basically show what the contractor had to do in order to keep the city of Calexico running, because that antenna not only had police and fire communications, it also served the city's wastewater facility as well. And so, you know, that caused some delays because there was just a lot of workaround that we had to do for that. Next slide, please, Gabby. And so you can see here, there's the two sets standing side by side for a few weeks, or maybe it was a month. We had to get the vendors to come out and put up the antennas, and they were pretty busy because a lot of people were working on the infrastructure during COVID. And the equipment that was ordered took longer to get to us as well. And so there was some of that in that impact. Next slide, please, Gabby. Contaminated soil. So we thought we had a clean site. And what we found once we were starting to dig in the back of the site was that there used to be a fuel tank that served the police and fire station. And the tank was removed, but the oil that was spilled from that tank was not removed. And so when we started digging, the construction workers, they smelled the gasoline basically, notified us, and then we brought on a specialty consultant to test it. It came back hot, and then we started digging, and we had to dig 15 to 20 feet down, and a pretty big hole. I didn't have a photo of it, but I was getting daily reports from the crew that was working on it and how many loads of dirt that they had to remove. Next slide, please. So the other one, which is, I wouldn't call it a construction delay, but it will be a construction impact, is work that we would like to do that is not scheduled yet. And so right now the fire department is parking their fire equipment in their parking lot, and that parking lot was not designed to hold such heavy equipment. And so you can see that the pavement is just being destroyed with daily use. And so when we finish the project and have a brand new fire station, we need to repair this parking lot for the fire administration building. So that will add some time to the project as well. Next slide, please, Gabby. So the new anticipated date is around March of 2022 with all of these delays added in. Yeah, and so next slide, Gabby. This is just a quick snapshot of the budget. So the budget is in really good condition. The fire department was really wise in looking at the budget and really critically thinking about it as well. And so we have the engineer's estimate at $6.7 million. So during design, we were getting cost estimates at every milestone. And that's what we went out to bid with. We also had a construction contingency built into the project budget. So this is on top of that 6.7 that's already been approved by this council, or the previous council, I should say. And there is about $400,000 remaining in that construction contingency. So we still have a lot left that will pay for that new parking lot and some of the other changes that we're working through right now. The award to Oakview constructors was $5.8 million and some change. So far, awarded change orders is at 140, and so that brings their total to 5.9 currently. So with that, I think that's the last slide, so if you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yes.
I see, is the landscape a desert-themed landscape or?
It's drought tolerant and
Okay.
a little desert, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's one. And then also, was there any consideration for, solar panels, type of energy,
Energy
generation?
efficiency.
Yeah.
We did not consider it at the time, but there's planning for it. So the main switchgear is sized so that you can add solar in the future. The roof was designed to hold the load of solar panels, and so it can be added at the city's direction in the future, but it was not incorporated in our project because we were mindful of the budget that we were working with.
Okay. Thank you.
Is the antenna the same height as the previous antenna?
90 feet, yes.
Okay.
It's a bit wider, but it is
Wider.
the same height, yes.
And before it's in the building, right, top of the building?
There was one on top of the building as well that was maybe 60 feet in height.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
What is the reason for the change order for $140,000?
There are various change orders that we looked at and awarded the contractor. There are a number of them that I can't recall each one, but they're changes that we reviewed with the contractor, negotiated, and felt that were fair to award them.
That included also some of the things that surfaced once you began to do the work.
Correct. So some of the soils, that we found, the contaminated soils, definitely was one of them. Another one was the extra demolition that they had to do, and the extra hazardous materials that were, there as well. So, there's a number of items like that. So each one of those impacts actually had some cost to it.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Camilo Garcia brought up some excellent questions, and I concur and would also, if possible, like to see desert-like landscaping and, of course, green energy incorporated.
For the solar panel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was there pre-wiring for that? No, there wasn't, right?
No, but there's infrastructure for it.
Oh, okay,
That's
so-
in place. So there's no actual conduit and wire going to the roof for it.
Got it. Okay, unless there's no questions. Thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
6 months more.
And we coming up to item 7, the bi-weekly COVID-19 update presentation.
All right, good evening, City Council, our staff that's here tonight, and like always, our citizens of Calexico that are watching us via our social media platforms. Before I start on the presentation, I did want to chime in on this fire station project. Some of the questions you're asking as far as the solar panels is what it was in our original plans. But as you guys are aware that when we first had it, we had a different dollar amount or budget allowed for the fire station. And throughout I guess it'd be like the thinning out of the budget, some of those stuff had to be removed. So ideally, we would have that, but just cost effective wise, we weren't able to have that. Just like some of the other items that we had in there that made sense, we had to really shorten up the fire station. Like a perfect example, that is the solar panels. The other one is the administration office. So our fire station that we're in right now at the courthouse is going to remain to be the fire administration site. So we won't be in the actual fire station. The firefighters and personnel will be there, and they totally deserve it. They've been living in different conditions, and this is going to be well deserved, that's for sure. So I just want to make that point. We did have some of that stuff, but we had to change it, obviously because of financial reasons. So getting to the COVID presentation, not much is happening with COVID in the sense of anything changing. If you're looking at our numbers, we ran at 7,704 people since the pandemic has started. We currently have only 38 active in the city of Calexico. I think the last meeting that we had, we were like 60 or 70. So we're down to 38. The number that I always tell you guys I'm happy about is it recovered. There's 7,429 of our citizens have recovered from it. And unfortunately, we have had the 237 deaths from it since this pandemic started. One of the things that is happening for the COVID that is being talked about is who's going to be eligible for that additional dose of COVID-19. So our last presentation, we had mentioned that it was not readily available. Now it's available if you have certain medical conditions that put you at a high risk. So if you're at a high risk, you're eligible for the third shot. Initially it was called a booster, but if you look into the science of it, it's not actually a booster, it's just an additional third shot. Excuse me. So people that are able to get this are active cancer treatment for tumors or cancers of the blood, an organ transplant patient, somebody who's taking immunosuppressants, stem cell transplant within the last 2 years. You see here, you have advanced or new HIV infection, active treatment with high dose cortisones, corticosteroids, or other drugs that may suppress your immune system. So basically it's just saying immune system deficiencies are the patients that are able to get it. How do you get this? Contact your doctor or many other groups that are out there giving the COVID test. Tell them that obviously you fit the criteria and you'll get your third shot for that. One of the other things that we're dealing with is how do people get a copy of their test? Remember, initially we were pushing these out and some people may have lost them by now or misplaced them or damaged them. Go to myturn.ca.gov, type in your information and you can print and also have an electronic copy of your your vaccination card. Other than that, all the COVID mobile testing continues here down the street every Wednesday at the One Stop. That's from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. You can also get tested at pretty much every pharmacy where you can get your testing done. You can also get your immunization there. So those things still remain open. And I believe that is all I have for you guys this evening. Any questions?
No, we don't. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Chief.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're up to announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on the City of Calexico website at www.calexicoca.gov the Friday following the City Council meeting. Community office hours with Mayor Moreno will be held by appointment. Please contact the City Clerk's office at 760-768-2102 to schedule an appointment. And I do continue to see citizens at my office there from Monday to Friday. Public comments and public appearances. Note, not to exceed 3 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the City Council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter of jurisdiction of the City Council. However, if the item you wish to comment is on a consent item, please comment now. During the current state of emergency, public comments will be received in the following ways. 1, in-person comments. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. Number 2, submit public comments via email by 2 p.m. on Wednesday, September 15, 2021 to our city clerk at ggarcia@calexicoca.gov or via fax to 760-768-2103. Any comments received during or after the meeting will be distributed to the City Council and retained for the official record. The City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. So moving to public comments, I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, have 4 public comments, and we're going to go with public comments, Mexican consulate by Mr. Marco Lopez. You come to the microphone, please.
Buenas noches, primera que nada. Buenas noches al Mayor Moreno y a todo el concejal de Cabildo. Mi pregunta principal ahorita viene siendo, yo porque yo soy mexicano 100%, vengo de San Luis, vengo hace como 4 meses que me conmemora aquí en Calexico. O sea, veo cada rato los meetings de ustedes cuando transmitían en vivo, y mi pregunta es ahorita, porque me acabo de enterar, porque empezaron a quitar las traducciones, porque hay mucha gente que está con el que habla español y se quedan como que, ¿cómo poder participar en algo si no le entiendo lo que estamos haciendo? Esa es mi pregunta ahorita, y sí me saca de onda mucho, porque ahorita, ¿a poco sí les entiendo? Porque tengo el 70 de inglés, que apenas estoy agarrándolo apenas, pero o sea, no me gustó cuando me enteré que, me caló más bien, que hayan hecho eso para gente que habla español, les está como que queriendo participar y no pueden, teniendo su oportunidad de poder participar en algo sin saber lo que están hablando. Esa es ahorita mi pregunta para ustedes. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Okay, next up is Gila Estrada on behalf of Linda Garwood. And we do have, we're going to read our comments, right?
Yes. City Mayor and members of the City Council, I would have liked to attend personally to this meeting, but due to short notice and work, I can't. I am Linda Garwood, owner of the house at 633 West Canal Street since 1979. The house next door to me at 629 West Canal Street has been abandoned for over 20 years. Owner died without heirs, and that has been sitting there unoccupied. The house has been used as a meeting place for drug users, homeless, and vagrants. There have been numerous incidents with individuals that have taken temporary residence there. We had to go through the expense of installing cameras, night lights, alarm systems, plus live with constant fear of criminal acts. Through the years, we have called police on several incidents. We have reported danger to our children and neighborhood, but since claim they do not do anything about this since they did not know the owner. I took it upon myself to find out, and according to county records, someone is paying the taxes on the property. On January 20 of this year, the house caught fire. Per the fire department, caused undetermined. Fire got within 2 feet of my house. Firefighters responded, and the house was partially gutted. I called the fire chief and the city to see if they were now going to take actions. No one did. Now again, Tuesday, September 31st, someone caused another fire. The fire expanded rapidly, and thanks to quick thinking from my granddaughter, she kept the flames away from our house with the hose while waiting for the firefighters. Thank God she was home at the time. If not, the fire would have reached our home at this time. I have attached photos, which I am sure the fire department has also in the incident report. This house has been an eyesore and a danger to my house and others since we are only 5 feet apart. This situation has to be addressed by the city. At this point, we are requesting a complete removal of the debris, which will continue to be fire hazard and a public nuisance. I am holding the city responsible for any future incidents regarding the property at 629 West Canal Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Muchacia. And now we have Mr. Javier Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, you have 3 items. So you just want to remain there and go through all of them?
I
have one here, general public comments, you have 2 here.
Yeah, but that's when the items come up.
Okay.
Yeah, first of all, Javier Gonzalez, IID. I'm here representing the IID, so I would like not to be considered as a public comment. Because if I had my personal public comment, it would be different. So I've noticed that in the past, because I want to hurry up, I don't give the information that I want to give to the public. It's more of a presentation to the public of what I do. I try to keep everybody informed in my web pages. Now that we've done with the canal cleanup, canal safety, I just want to report that it was sad that we didn't get the funding for the beach canal. That's a $6.1 million project, but I want to let you know that I'm going to include it in the agenda for IID. We have another representative, and I want to call on Mrs. Norma Galindo. It was her proposal back in 2014. The thing hasn't moved. I think that IID can fund it if we fund it in 3 or 4 years. We don't have to do it in 1 year. So I'll be adding it to the agenda. We need you guys to call the other representatives. That's a very, very high stake thing. Once that project is done, I know there's going to be development in that area. The other thing is, I saw the Calexico fire station. Your IID Calexico pay station is being upgraded. Maintenance is going to include new desert landscaping because they just had rocks and sand. That's not desert landscaping. They painted the inside. They fixed up the restrooms. They're putting new tile on the front. There's a lot of they're basically painting and restoring the whole building, other than tearing down the windows and the walls and doing it again. A lot of people have been trying to criticize me that's why the energy rates went up. I want to let you know that IID never took action regarding the energy rates. In fact, we took action to protect the rates. The rates went up because they closed down several energy plants. They're trying to force us to go into solar and wind, which is nice, but we're not ready like that. And then gasoline prices and natural gas went up. So I think they're going to close 3 more plants. If that does, energy prices are going to go up, and that's out of our control. What we can let you know is we had no blackouts this summer. There was a 2001 summer readiness project. For the first time in several years, we had no blackouts. The other thing is, like I said, the beach canal. I'm going to put it in the agenda. I do have an office at the Calexico Pay Station. I never use it. I meet people out in the parks. Sadly, I've been telling you there's over 200 dead trees in our parks. We need to take them out. They're small, they planted, they've been there for a long time. I meet people in the parks, that way we're outside. But I do have office hours, and just call me and we can meet. Our main banana is street lighting. I'm there every morning, go out and check if the crews are working. At night, we fixed up over 400 lights in Calexico. I think I came at the right time because the whole system is breaking apart. One of the things that I'm a little bit sad is there's like 8 or 10 street lights that are the responsibility of the city, because the contract with IID is IID fixes the lighting. If it doesn't work, they fix it or change it now to LED. Now, we've been reporting them. The other thing, I just counted it today, there's over 100 of those old ones that the cover is black, burned out, but they work. I tried very hard to get them to change LED, but it costs a lot of money, and they are the responsibility of the city. So what IID is going to do, they're going to change the lens covers. If you see them, you go by every street, you see them all black, dark. They're going to change the lens cover. They started at Kennedy Gardens, and that's good because IID, they say it's too expensive unless it doesn't work. But it's not fair for our troubleshooters, IID troubleshooters, that they're out there every day. I go every day, and every day I find new street lights that are broken. It's just the system is breaking apart. And I call IID, they repair them in 2 or 3 days. But it's sad when we have the city can't fix up one in 6 months. I'm not talking about the ones in the downtown. I'm talking about the ones that they're underground. What's going on? One in 6 months, you can't fix it. That's sad, and it's not fair for our troubleshooters that are out there every single day changing. I mean, they have like 3 are going around Calexico trying to fix them, and you guys have an electrician, and we need to fix those. But some of them they change LED, but they still don't turn on because it's underground work, and that's the responsibility of the city. I just want to let the people know that if you have any street light, I go out every day, but I can't go through every street. Sometimes when I go, that light is on. When I pass, it turns off. Let me know. Javier Gonzalez, 760-790-6469, and like I said, we're trying to work and make Calexico better. We're working with the city. We meet with Miguel for our parks. The parks no longer are flooded. I know there's a little bit of water going in, but there's no flooded. We work with Mr. Miguel with the street bumps, and we meet with your commissioners. I hope you guys appoint good commissioners for the housing and everything. There's a lot of work out there. We don't need just people that want to be a commissioner. We need people that need to work out there. And with that, that's my report as your IID representative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Now we have Mr. George Taylor.
Mayor, council, staff, I am George Taylor. I am the new operations manager for public services. I just wanted to get here and let you know that I am in the valley now. My predecessor has been promoted on. We've been a good community partner for quite some time here. I want to make myself available for the new regulations, the SB 1383, that will start January 1st of 2022. We are actually piloting some composting that we're doing regarding organics, and I want to make myself available if you have any questions regarding those, as well as other items, things for the city. We just were awarded the contract for the Calexico Unified School District, and we've been a good partner in the community for quite some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. No, I don't have anybody else. Anybody else want to speak? No? Okay, so we got on to city manager report.
Yes, Mayor, City Council. Norma, Gerardo, can you please come up, please? I'm very happy to inform that we were notified by the California Arts Council that at their most recent public meeting, the city of Calexico was awarded $19,000 as part of their Arts and Cultural Organizations General Operating Relief Program. So one, I want to commend staff that worked to get this done. It's a value added that will benefit our community. And Ms. Gerardo, can you just share a little more about what it took to get this grant and what this grant would do?
Absolutely. Good evening, council members and members of the public. Back in February, we got notified that there were some funds available to the California Arts Council. And I started working on the grant. I applied back in February, and we just got notice that we have been awarded through those grants. It is the first time that we get something from the California Arts Council. I'm very excited. We have a foot in the door, and that's what we need. We need the state to know us, and once we have a grant and we provide reports and we utilize the funds the way we said we will, I'm sure more funding will come through as we apply for more grants. So this is the first one that we get, and it's not for programming, as my city manager just said. It's for general expenses to continue running the center. So that's definitely going to help the center. And that's it. We're very excited. There's still some paperwork that needs to be provided, and then we get the funds. And it will run from November 2021 through October 2022.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
As follow-up to a request that was made by Councilwoman Romo, Chief Gerardo, please come over and provide us a status update on the work you and your department are doing.
I wrote it down so I wouldn't go on forever. I'm sorry. I'll read it up. At the last city council meeting, Councilmember Gloria Romo asked me for a status report on our public safety dispatchers, traffic control / meter, and animal control divisions. First, I will talk about our current public safety dispatchers in the city, what we're doing. After seeing Mr. Figueroa, it looks like we found a resolution. He will be bringing something to the council October 6th in a future meeting. It looks like we'll be able to fill the needs that we need currently for the dispatchers. So that one cut it down. And let me skip to the that was pretty. I was also asked regarding our parking meter division. The Park Meter Division does not make any money for the city, but it's mostly like a self-sustained operations. Prior to COVID, it does bring some revenue, and we do break even. In the future, we're looking at adjusting our fees to the current. There'll be some recommended levels, and we can bring revenues and be self-sufficient again like we used to, and be actually. That's a good department that pays for itself. Sometimes it breaks even, but like I've told the council members and the community in the past, is that our traffic controllers not only do the traffic jobs, but every time there's an accident, they go out there, any city event, anything that happens, traffic controllers are on scene. We've used them during emergencies like the earthquakes, the Easter quake and other events where we are short in staff. We've used them, so they do a lot. Traffic controllers and the meter people do a lot other than just mark vehicles and cite people and control traffic. One of the things that I have told council members is that covering the downtown meters during the holiday season, to me, is not good. I think if you're going to cover the meters to try to bring in your shoppers downtown, once downtown gets a little bit healthier with more tenants and stores, is I would prefer to do it in August and maybe the first 2 weeks of September. I mean, that's where I will encourage people to spend money downtown and buying uniforms and school supplies for their children. Not in December. I mean, December, I don't know how many of you here really care how much money you spend, but I mean, I've seen people that do not plan their Christmas right, and they go buy a gift and they don't buy the PlayStation in September. They procrastinate and wait till December, and they end up paying like $1,000, and they don't care because they need it. Same thing when people are shopping downtown during December. If you cover up the meters, people are still going to feed the meters. So covering up the meters is not good. Another thing about the meters is that it stops our downtown from being a parking lot for people going to Mexicali. If I would be allowed, and that's something that I would like to do, is going back and actually having 2-hour parking limits, 24 hours if we could. If we could man 2 people to go out there and mark the cars for 2 hours and cite people after the 2 hours. One of the biggest things to do the after hours when I don't have people downtown in the parking division is the people go and drink in Mexicali, they come back, and guess what? We spend most of our time between midnight to like 3, 4 in the morning putting out fights because people cross the line as they've been drinking, or they get in an argument while making the line, crossing back a pedestrian, and we end up having to deal with a lot of their calls downtown. So my thing is, if you're going to do that, you're going to park. It's like in San Diego. You go to San Diego, anywhere in San Diego, you pay for parking in a parking lot, and you pay the meters, same thing. So I mean, if you're looking at revenue, generating revenue and getting our money back for the calls for service that we do get in downtown, I would start marking cars like we did at one point prior to COVID. The tourist parking lot, we were going out there, and in weekends, we did pretty good. We were making about $5,000 on a weekend in citations. So, I mean, I know that it's not about making money, but it's about being able to sustain our services that we have for our community. And then they take away from my patrol officers so we can go take care of somebody else's problem, because most of these people don't even live in Calexico. So, I mean, there we go again. We're paying for something just like our traffic downtown, I mean, that goes to Mexicali. We're paying for them to go through Calexico while the rest of the county, makes money out of it. Yeah. The malls and everybody else makes money out of it. In Calexico, what do? We pay $450,000 just to have traffic controllers there year round. So those would be my recommendations. Another thing is that the traffic control meter division has outgrown their building. I think the city, there'll probably be some alternative areas that maybe we should start planning for the future. And I've spoken to Mr. Figueroa in the past and some of the council members where I think maybe we could start looking at a more centralized place where they have enough parking to leave their cars that they use, the little Go-Fours, their van, their pickup trucks. They can have all their cones. I have about 30, at one point I can have up to 30 employees. They don't have enough room for them to take a break. They only have one restroom, and you have men and women, and I mean, you need to have more restrooms.
Yeah.
They need a break room. They need somewhere they can do reports because they tow vehicles and sometimes they do other stuff, and they do the reports. I have my supervisors that do monthly reports for me on stats, and they don't have the room or the capacity. Now with COVID, you got everybody on top of everybody. I think they need a place, and I would recommend that maybe it's something we could look for in the future for them, but it's something that we need to work on it now. On the animal control division priority, to me, it's something that we're working on, but they need to get a fully equipped, animal control vehicle. That's something that, thank God we've been working on. It looks like it might happen. And also their animal control facility needs a little bit of a, upgrade out there. We need to go out there and fix the kennels and make sure that we have what they need as equipment to do their job better. I only have 2 animal control officers, and maybe we can hire a temporary receptionist or somebody to answer phone calls, 4 to 6 hours a day, 3 or 4 days out of the week, just so I can get them out on the streets, because we do get a lot of complaints of a lot of dogs and cats out there, but I only have 2, and they don't work 24/7. A lot of people don't understand, but we do pick up a lot of dead animals. When people ask me why I buy 2 huge chest freezers, it's because we pick up the dead animals, we put them in plastic bags, and we put them in the freezer. Once it reaches the capacity, we put them, and they're frozen, we put them on our trucks, and then they actually go take them to get disposed of properly. So there's been times where the freezer has broken on us, and we actually have to throw the whole freezer out because the freezer doesn't work, and you got about 300 pounds worth of carcasses in there. So they're very important to me. Sometimes we feel that, they feel that we forget them, but just like everything else throughout the city, we all have priorities. And our priorities are public safety, is my police officers and my dispatchers and the firefighters, that we need to go out there, but they also play a very vital role for the citizens of Calexico. My traffic control division, I send them out to the neighborhoods. They cite vehicles that are parked wrong. They cite vehicles that have expired registration, abandoned vehicles. They go to we can go lawfully go into private property when it comes to the stores like Walmart, the theaters, anywhere where they have a blue zone, food for less. We have authority to go in there and cite people for parking in a handicap zone without the placard out there. We go out there and cite people. I mean, that's part of our job. Being parked in the red zone and the fire zones, we go do that too. So I send them out to do that job. And like I said, it's a quality of life issue in some neighborhoods when it comes to abandoned vehicles, and it's a safety issue. You don't want any of the children to get bit by a spider or something that might be under there, or if a car falls on them because they left it on a jack stand. That's what they do. So overall, I mean, I gave you pretty much, hopefully I answered your questions. One of the comments that also was that on the school issue, and Lieutenant Serrano has been tasked with the traffic issues surrounding our schools, and he has been in contact with school officials. And next, hopefully, the meeting of October 6th, we'll have a presentation for you just to bring you up to speed on where we're at with this issue. And I want to thank you for allowing me some time.
Thank you.
And the reason I broke up a little bit is because a lot of this stuff got answered for me, or actually you were made aware on the issue regarding the dispatchers, is that October 6th.
Thank you
Mrs.
for
Romo.
your proposal, and I agree with you, and I accept your recommendation, Chief. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nothing else to report, Mayor?
No, thank you. So next item is City Council comments and reports or meetings attended. I'm going to start with that Mayor Pro Tem Garcia, myself, and Mr. Figueroa met with representatives from the commander, Lieutenant Colonel from the Army, the Navy base, the Blue Angels.
Captain Perkins.
Oh, Captain Perkins? Okay, yes. So we met here here, and they expressed that, obviously, they didn't do the Blue Angels show this year, but they're looking forward to perhaps next year as we move along with the pandemic. But they did bring us a small token of appreciation for their support in the community. And I do have something to offer here, which is, it's nice.
Oh,
Signed by the Blue
very
Angels.
nice.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So they did give it to us, and I believe, Mr. Figueroa, we can put this somewhere in the hallway.
We'll make sure to find a very good spot within City Hall so we can showcase it.
Okay, thank you. I also met, myself and Ms. Ureña met with the Terry Nava and a few representatives of the new sheriff, which is Carla Flores and Mr. Roldan, also the vice chair, and discuss some issues in terms of housing, the lack of housing in Calexico, and how we can better that moving forward. Also attended the CBP webinar, which is it's a monthly meeting that we have with the Department of Homeland Security and the customs here at the port, and we discussed several issues. And obviously, again, when are they going to open the border? We don't have a date. And also, what's more pressing right now is probably a concern was the east port of entry that they're still closing at 2 o'clock, and perhaps having that extended to 6 o'clock. So we're working towards that. Out of that meeting, I believe what was expressed, the consensus was that we need to move, we need to come out, form a group, and maybe perhaps talk to our counterparts on the other side and express our concerns that if they do open the border in the east port, it would certainly help the police department with the traffic as we go down south, especially on the weekends. Also, I was invited for the grand opening at Fiesta del Sol on Monday that past weekend. It was pretty enlightening. It's a huge place. So they also said that there's anybody who wants to go to Fiesta del Sol, don't want to drive over there. They also have transportation available at the port as you cross over to Mexico. They'll pick you up there with a small fee. I think it's $1, $2, whatever it is, and they'll take you, and then you get a ticket, and they'll bring you back at the port and at the border, and then you can just walk into Mexico and Calexico. That's all I have. Anybody?
Comment for the
Well, anybody? You want to talk?
I got my report? No.
Sure. Who do you want to start?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say with pride again, happy anniversary for the 211 years of the independence of Mexico. Que viva Mexico. Last Wednesday, Mayor Pro Tem Camilo Garcia and I had a meeting with the city manager and president of the Calexico Art Council, Ms. Carmen Durazo. And last Wednesday too, council member Ms. Arriola Fernandez and Mayor Pro Tem Mr. Garcia and I also attended the swearing of Ms. Silvia Bernal as a new board member of the Heffernan Memorial Healthcare District Board of Directors. And finally, I have several calls from the community to ask why are we not translating our meetings into Spanish. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Romo. Ms. Aurelia Fernandez, yes.
Okay. Yes, I also attended Customs via Zoom along with our mayor. And yes, I'm just going to piggyback a little bit of what they said. You know, we're hoping that they would extend the hours in the Eastport. And it's not, it's, I guess what we got from out of the meeting, it's not even United States is holding it. It's the Mexican authorities. And the Mexican consulate said he was going to see what he could do about that, because we do need to extend it so it could relieve some of the congestion that we have on the west side. And also, I met with the Imperial Regional Detention Facility. We met the new warden, which is Rolando Trevino. And again, I also went to swearing in of Mrs. Bernal for the Heffernan. And that's all. That's all I have.
All right,
Thank
thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Sure, thank you. First of all, I want to also just go back to your presentation, Mayor Moreno, in regards to meeting with our Captain Perkins. One of the things that he highlighted and that he was very appreciative is the mutual aid that exists between, the city and of course, Navy base in collaboration with whether it's fire, they come down to our city, we go up there. So I think that's something that he wanted to highlight and make sure that that continues to exist. So, and also he was extended an invitation to come down and share some of the things that they're doing at the Navy base, some of the ways that we can continue to partner with the Navy base also. So then I also had the privilege to attend a very nice event put together yesterday at the Carmen Durazo Art Center, titled Viva Mexico Art Exhibition. It was the opening night. And this was also an exhibit celebrating the 16th of September, where community members, were given the chance to paint, and I think, Councilwoman, Romo participated. I think I saw her name there in one of that pieces. And but what was really nice to see was the community coming together. Just being very festive. Again, that the exhibit was great. They also had a mariachi mixteco. I think when that Mexican consul was here, I think I even started singing. So, and I know I can't do it better than Chief Gerardo. He's the pro, right? So Chief, next time you'll be the one singing. So, but anyway, so it was a very festive event, with Mariachi Mixteco. Thank you for being there also. And of course, this was also made possible by the Calexico Arts Council and the California Arts Council, as well with our staff, Norma. Thank you for putting that in the staff. You guys did an outstanding job. Keep in mind that this exhibit is still up and available for, everybody to go see. And I invite you to go and see and enjoy these paintings, which will run through September 23rd. And it's open from Monday through Thursday from 12 to 2:30 and then 3:30 to 7. So again, please go see it. It's great. Then also, I had a chance to attend the Planning Commission. Again, it was a great meeting, very dynamic. Thank you for all those members that showed up and are part of that commission. They're doing a wonderful job. And then also I wanted to also extend kudos to our staff. I know I had a resident who was very concerned that his water meter was leaking, and he was very concerned that he was going to be charged, or not just the fact that he was going to be charged, but just that it was leaking, and he was concerned. So staff actually went out in the early morning hours and replaced it. So he was very ecstatic to know that was done. So I think it just takes a little bit, and again, kudos to Mr. Falomir also for your department, and thank you on behalf of that resident, and that's all I have as far as my report.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Reyes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd also like to congratulate our neighboring country, Mexico, for their 211th Independence Day celebration. Que viva Mexico. I wanted to go ahead and thank Mayor Moreno for the opportunity to meet with the Housing Authority. I felt like the conversation that we had with the Housing Authority was very productive. We were able to talk about certain obstacles that the Housing Authority had into building certain senior apartments that the city could take care of, and very soon we will be able to report specifics on that to the rest of the council and make sure that this council is aware of opportunities where the city can make housing easier for the Housing Authority and available for the citizens of Calexico. I'm very excited for tomorrow's meeting at 2 p.m., I believe, between myself, Mayor Moreno, and members of the business community, where we're going to be talking about the initial proposal or an initial draft for a food truck ordinance for downtown. The project is to potentially have an ordinance where certain days in the week or the weekends, at certain hours, we can have festival style, legal festival style food truck gatherings, maybe different types of commerce, maybe at tianguis, to renovate the face of downtown, to raise some funds to keep downtown clean, and overall just make it an attractive place so that our citizens feel that they don't have to go to San Diego or Riverside or even Mexicali, but they have a lot of energy and commerce here at home. I'm very excited for that project that we're going to be starting tomorrow. And lastly, we're going to have an Imperial County Southern Border Committee meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. Mayor Moreno is on that committee. Mr. City Manager Figueroa is on the committee as well Director Javier Gonzalez. The Imperial County Southern Border Committee is going through a reboot or restructuring where as a committee we've decided that we want more public engagement. So far that committee has been very good because it brings different government agencies together so that we can collaboratively work on common issues in the same way that we're working with the Housing Authority on a common project. And so we're just going to now add the community element, and I'm very excited for tomorrow's meeting and how the Southern Border Committee is going to progress. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Araya. Next item is on consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be considered routine by the City Council, Calexico Community Redevelopment Agency, Successor Agency, or Calexico Finance Authority, and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately by the City Council.
So moved.
So move, okay. All those in favor?
I have a comment.
You have a comment? Okay.
I just want to comment on item, number 8. I'm not going to expand on the ifs or the whats or, I just want to say that, whenever we consider taking any action or this council to take any action, that we don't backpedal. That is just a waste of time, resources, monies. This was well intended, and it turned out to be the opposite, where we spending money on different things, legal, staff's time. So next time, instead of backpedaling, let's consider it from the beginning and just move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Motions on the floor to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Second to Mr. Ordeña. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No?
I think we have to, isn't it, if we have to
Okay, so we have 3 yes and 1 no. Mr. Fernandez?
No.
No? Okay, so it's 3-2, motion carried. Thank you. The next item is items pulled from consent agenda calendar for discussion. And then we don't have those. Discussion and potential action items. Number 12, adopt resolution approving process for master tax sharing agreement, consultant and funding.
Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the community that are following us, the city managers in the County of Imperial, along with County CEO Rojodas, have had multiple conversations about a master tax sharing agreement that will be led by LAFCO. This is an important item as it pertains to future annexations and the benefits that that will bring to Imperial County. As a result of that, all the city managers and CEO Rojodas have agreed that we should follow a process in which a third-party consultant does such assessment. This way, we avoid any potential conflicts among the cities, and we have a third party perform this assessment. We've also all agreed to use the UVECA methodology to fund and share the cost of the assessment. At this point right now, the only purpose of this item is to get direction from the City Council on the process that we're looking to do. At the city manager level and county CEO level, we've all agreed So we're all taking this to our city councils. At this moment, Mayor, Council, if there's any comments or questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
On this, Miguel, I know we're just approving this resolution, right? But as we start in these conversations, can we get some updates? Is there a way that we can get updates as to what is being discussed? Or how is this gonna, this process? Because I would like to get kind of like first-hand information as to what is being discussed. So before, a document is presented to us, if possible.
Absolutely, and that's what's going to happen, because there are future items on the approval ladder for this item that will come to your attention. So one thing is approving the methodology, the process. I will be coming back in the form of future agenda items as things progress, and I'll be keeping you guys abreast of the actions that are being taken.
Okay, I consider it's very good idea, but all the cities of the Imperial Valley must agree to this important idea, or no?
Yes, Councilwoman Romo, actually every city council needs to agree that this is something that you wish to proceed with. So the answer is yes. The expectation is for every city manager like myself to come, share with you the importance of this item and why we're making a recommendation.
Okay, so move for me.
Go ahead.
I'll second that motion to approve.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried by roll. Item number 13, to reject all bids received for the Calexico International Airport taxiway and rehabilitation, FAA AIP number 3-06-0034-018-2020 and 3-06-0034-021-2021, and authorize staff to rebid the project per Public Contract Code Section 20166.
Yes, Mayor, City Council, the item that I bring forth to you is one that you are aware of because we've gone through the process of following our purchasing policy as to how we solicit proposals for this project, which is specifically for the taxiway at the Calexico International Airport. At this point right now, we've come to a situation in which some of the proposals that we received have been deemed to be non-responsive to all the elements outlined in the request for proposals. Therefore, at this time, following legal consultation and legal advice, the recommendation is for the bids to be rejected at this time. So as a result of this, we can actually go back and re-engage in the procurement process so we can address some of the needs in the RFP, so we can proceed with the project.
Okay, anybody have anything?
When can this bid be reopened?
Okay, depending on your motion and your approval tonight, I will work with Ms. Falomir to bring this item back as soon as possible.
Oh, okay. Immediately. Okay.
Okay.
So move.
So we'll make a motion to approve as presented?
Yes, sir.
Okay, make motion on the floor by Ms. Ureña, Romo, and who seconds it?
Second.
Second by Ariola Fernandez. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All those opposed? None. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Item number 14, authorize city manager to sign change order number 1 with A&R Construction in the amount of $143,887.14 for sewer main replacement project on designated streets.
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council, I do want to point out that no work has been performed on what's being presented to you. What we're looking to offer you are options. So, as it's noted in the subject line that the Mayor read, right now we are in the middle of a sewer main replacement project. As you know, one of the things that that I commend our Public Works Department for is that rather than being reactive, we want to be proactive, and that's why we have a replacement program for water lines in the city of Calexico. With that said, There was a procurement process that was followed for this project, and award was provided. As part of the work being done, it was noticed that there would have to be additional replacements once, in this case, the contractor was able to go in there and look at what was occurring underground. And what we have right now is the option of just continuing to honor the agreement as is, or consider this change order as an option to replace the additional sewer main lines that were identified, that are specifically identified in your report, that would be the additional work to service those areas of Calexico. At this point, and specifically those are on Pollen Avenue between 9th and 10th, just so we can put this into perspective of the location that would be affected. If you have any comments or questions, myself and Public Works Manager Faromir will be more than glad to answer them.
I have a question. Okay, at this point, it's something that it's necessary, isn't it? I mean, if we don't follow through with it, the damages are gonna continue and it's gonna cost us more money? Is that what I'm?
Yes, this area of Calexico is the old part of Calexico. So the sewer line is very deteriorated and we are constantly having sewer breaks in that area. So that's why we come before you to request the change order to add additional sewer line in Pauline Avenue.
Mr. Garcia?
I go back to my comment that I made earlier, Miguel, when we had that ARPA presentation, right? So, and Ms. Palomino, you alluded that, you know, there is some part of our town that is quite, you know, it's aging, you know, it's age. So, do we have, say, an inventory, for lack of a better word, you know, of our infrastructure, you know, and the age, and maybe, you know, what we need to tackle now? Because as we go and do a street resurfacing, or we have a water break, or at least, you know, projecting that there will be a need for that. You know, again, going back to the comment of Mr. Figueroa, being proactive. I think right now we have an opportunity with ARPA monies to be proactive, to be preventive. You know, that's the word that I was looking for, to be preventive. I think we have the opportunity now, a one-time opportunity. So if we have it, that's great. Let's identify. Let's go ahead and you know, move with the plan. Because the thing about change orders, you know, that that's something that I don't like, right? So usually when a work is being performed, you know, we might be paying top dollar, or we might be paying a good rate. You know, who knows? But if we can come up with a plan where we actually put a bid or an RFP for that, you know, maybe, you know, we can be a little more competitive. Maybe we can stretch our dollars. We can be, you know, repairing or addressing more needs. So again, just FYI, food for thought, please. If there is already a plan, an inventory, you know, great. Let's see, let's bring something that we can look at and start working on that. And if there is none, well, there's an opportunity to start that, to make sure that we have a plan.
Yes, for our water treatment and our distribution, we did do a water master plan that is approximately 3 to 4 years old. As for our waste, 3 to 4 years old. We have it available at our public works yard and our water treatment plant. Unfortunately, we haven't updated our our sewer or distribution wastewater collection. That is something that is part of our CIP. So we need to, I need to do a request for proposal to get a consultant to assist us with just the sewer collection, so we can have that inventory that you do mention of knowing how old the lines are, our projections for the future. So we are going to start working on that request for proposal so we can update our wastewater collection master plan.
And that is great. I'm sorry. That is great, because those are two of the items that are being, you know, at least mentioned as an example of the ARPA money. So I think it just fits right in. But I'm sorry to continue.
No. And the second part of your question, the items on the change order, we already have a unit price that was for the bids. So it's not prices that we're not aware of. It's the unit prices that were submitted in the bid. We just need to add additional quantities to it.
Okay. So, but again, you know you're contractual, and we relied on you in providing that information. But if we can just look for ways, and that's not to say that I'm questioning your processes, but if we can find ways to be proactive, preventive, and again, stretching and having our dollar go a little bit farther. So appreciate that.
Anyone else?
Yeah, in my opinion, it will be more expensive not to do the job, in my opinion. Thank you, Ms. Falomir, for telling us before about this plan. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I wanted to go ahead and briefly comment because Mr. Garcia has brought up change order procedures into this council, and I'm very grateful for the attention he has had to that detail, because like we saw with the fire department, when we are good about change orders, we have that extra money so we can have an even better project, for whatever comes up. I think something that is missing in this conversation is that is the progress that we have made to the process that we have right now. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Miguel, previously change orders like this didn't come to council. In a way, the fact that it's before us, the fact that we are even being asked to approve a change order like this, in a situation where the variable is that the problem is underground, that we don't know that the problem is there until we dig it up and we see, that needs to get fixed before, it becomes more expensive. But I definitely do concur with what Camilo is saying. We have to balance how quickly we make these decisions, because the work needs to get done. But at the end of the day, if there's opportunities for being a little bit more competitive in a way that it doesn't slow down our process and continues the transparency that we are currently practicing, I think we would all be for that. But is that correct about this new process about change orders?
I think what we're trying to accomplish, one, is to make sure that we comply with the request and the recommendations from City Council, number one. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we follow through on the recommendations that you put on the table to improve procedures and processes in the city. That's number one. Number two is I was sharing actually with a council member that to some extent I think this is an example of the recommendations being put to practice now, where we can have a healthy discussion as to what we feel is going to be the best interest of the city, just like the five of you have noted right now. And I think that's very clear for staff and myself that that's the expectation, and we're going to meet that. So.
Okay, thank you. I don't have nothing to say.
Make a motion.
So you move to authorize?
To approve the change order?
That's presented.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody second that?
Second.
Second by Romo. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those 5-0, thank you. Motion carried.
Mm-hmm. I think Camilo seconded, right? No? Okay.
Thank you. On number 15, authorize city manager to sign amendment number 3 to the agreement of professional services with Panorama Environmental Incorporated for technical and regulatory assistance for New River Improvement Project, Calexico Reach.
Yes. In previous meetings, I've provided a guideline of the process to secure the regulatory permits for the 3 infrastructure projects for the New River that are going to take place in the vicinity of the 2nd Street Bridge. There are 2 permits that need to be secured from the state, for which right now I'm very happy to share that progress is being made and we're on track to obtain those rec permits without further delay. As it pertains to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit, which is the Section 404 federal permit that we need for the project, we've been working diligently with them through our project manager, Mr. Jose Angel, and also with the permit expert that we brought in through a procurement process that we followed, which is Panorama, Environmental Services. And as part of the role of Panorama, they've been working diligently with the federal staff to make sure that we address all the Clean Water Act requirements that the Fed imposes on projects like the one that we're trying to accomplish here. As a result of that work, some things have come to light. Like the staff report mentions, given the direction that we get from the Army Corps of Engineers, we've had to modify some of the work that Panorama was doing so we can commit to complete what the federal government is asking of us. This item that you have here for you is only an amendment for $17,480. The purpose why you have it here, one, is because I want to make sure that we update you folks in the community as to where we stand on securing the regulatory permits, specifically the federal one, but also so that we share with everybody the additional work that's being requested by the federal government for us to secure the permit. So with that said, what you have here in front of you would continue to help us move forward with securing the 404 permit, which is the one that the federal government has to issue.
Thank you, Mr. Veron. Any discussion? No? No? Okay, so I move to approve number 15 as presented. Anybody second that?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Mr. Ureña. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Number 16, adopt and approve City of Calexico 2021 strategic plan.
A few weeks back, we had a very, I want to say, positive presentation by Reliance Public Relations, which was, in this case, the agency responsible for facilitating, drafting, and putting together our strategic plan for the City of Calexico. Like I shared at that time when we had that presentation, I recommended that we give a 30-day window for the community, for local stakeholders to give us feedback. Ms. Legaspi left, but I want to thank her because we were able to have draft copies of that plan at the city library. We encouraged people through our website also. We also had copies at the city manager's office. And at this point right now, the time has come. We covered all that. I've put together here a timeline as the background to the item as to when we started and every single task and milestone that we accomplished with our partners at Reliance Public Relations to make sure that we had an inclusive process where everybody got the chance to give their say. And that included city council, that included my staff, and the community. So with that said, what we have here in front of us is the opportunity to formally adopt this strategic plan that I think we've been waiting for quite some time, and it's here in front of us today.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Figueroa.
Mayor.
Any discussion?
Yes.
You do? Go ahead.
Mayor, I want to thank Mr. Figueroa and all the staff who participated in this strategic plan. Thank you so much. Okay, and so moved for me.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Again, Miguel, thank you. I think, this was a long time coming, forever, as long as I can remember. So now I think, now that we had a chance, you did mention that this was available. Were there any additional comments provided by the public or the community?
There were comments provided, but not necessarily to modify the content, but just to acknowledge the process and the items that were presented during the meeting, during the city council meeting.
Okay. So with that also, I know that there's some clear goals that are set here. So now if we can start, and even as it was presented by Reliance, I think they were even assigning, who and who was responsible. So if we can start breaking those down, I think just starting to get the work done. I think there are a lot of things that we learned, and we actually were a lot of things that were validated. Also, something that we knew was suspected. As to the needs and that also the services being provided by all of you. But again, we need to just do a priority list, if we want to call it that way, as to what we're going to tackle. With that also, and including now that we're going to be looking at the ARPA monies, some of those things, we were told, who was in first, who was in second, fire, library, PD, all those things. I think that there's already feedback also from the community that needs to be taken into account, when we look at the decisions as to how we're going to allocate these monies, and looking forward to providing services to our community. So if you can just come back with, again, a priority list for us to look at, and then just starting to work on that.
Absolutely.
Specifics.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you.
Mr. Fernandez? No? No? Anybody else?
Just very briefly, I'm very happy with this strategic plan. I'm very happy about the attitude that we're taking towards it, where we're actually, not just going to approve a strategic plan, but we're actually going to work on it. But what I wanted to say is, I'm sincerely very proud of the City Council for getting to this point where we have a very clear vision of a Calexico 2021 strategic plan that is going to serve us for at least the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve item number 16 as presented. Second by Ms. Romo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Moving up to item number 17. Appointment of one general commissioner to the Housing Authority of the City of Calexico. And I do have the list of 2 applicants. We have Mr. John Moreno and Ms. Margaret Salsa. I'm going to make a motion.
Mr. Moreno, I think I submitted something, but I think I put 18. It was 17.
Okay, but hold on. We're going to vote right now. I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. John Moreno to the commission. Anybody second that? No second? Okay, so that motion dies. Anybody want to make a motion to appoint Margaret Salsa?
I think I have the right to speak before you guys.
Do we have a speaker card for this item, or?
I did submit it, but I think I got the wrong
Yeah,
number.
they initially put 18 and we're on 17.
Yeah, but I got the wrong number, sir.
Okay. I mean, if it was an honest mistake, we should take his public comment.
So you want to speak? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that I have nothing. I don't even know who applied, to be honest. Javier Gonzalez. I'm speaking as a citizen. I don't even know who applied, but I've always said I've been involved. I've served in commissions for 18 years. I don't like to say I did, but the anti-graffiti policy, the no drinking and alcohol, the adopt apart, the border metropolitan, all those things, the run-a-thon, all those things were done because we were active as commissioners. Commissioners are not there just because they're friends or, you need to appoint people that are your expert. You guys are not expert in everything. That's why you have a police commissioner, recreation commissioner. They are the ones that are actually out there. I mean, housing authority, let me let you know, I know your chief, Mr. Gonzalo, was started out at La Pichoneras as neighborhood watch. Back then, they had all these grants. I mean, I remember Director Rios telling us at the Youth Boxing Club, Gonzalez, we don't have staff, but we got money. Just give us the list of our kids that participate in Little League, in boxing, and we'll pay you. And they did. And they had neighborhood watch, and they had all these planted trees. Now it's all dead. You go to Las Pichoneras, you see the first trees you see out there, the big pine trees that were there for 30 years, they're all dead. They're ready to fall on someone. You go to the Calexico next to Calexico Gardens, it's all dried, broken sprinklers. You go out to where the skater building is. In some areas the grass is like this, in others it's dry, in others there's no grass. You have the citizens right here next to the community center. They're elderly, and each one has to cut their own grass. You're talking about 20 by 20, each one has to cut their own grass. I don't want to criticize the housing authority, but I tried working with commissioners in the past, nobody answered. But one gentleman, I remember, but they never listened to him. I live at Kennedy Gardens. We get the kids from Las Pichoneras playing out there, and they tell us, Javier, we don't even have a bench to sit outside. Our basketball courts are like this. The playground is all broken. And you need to appoint commissioners that are actually out there. There's a lot of funding. Believe me, I look at the funding that there is because I've looked for funding for neighborhood watch. Everybody tell us, agent, sadly, we're not a nonprofit at Kennedy Gardens, but for HUD, there's a lot of grants out there. There's a lot of grants that we're not taking advantage, and I just want to let you know that you guys appoint someone that will actually research those grants, that will also research all the programs that our kids are available. I worked for San Diego State under a HUD program. If you remember the Calexico something, it was a HUD program. There's a lot of funding out there, and there's a lot of need. Our housing projects, and let me tell you, as an ID director, one of my priorities is to keep the lights on around the senior citizens and housing authority projects. So your commissioners are the people that are going to advise you. Just select wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr. Mayor, I have a just brief discussion, but not a motion, if I may.
Okay.
I'm hesitant on this item to either make a motion or second a motion. If anything, I wanted to see what the council would motion and second, specifically because I also share the same sentiment. If there's a way to put out the solicitation so we could get more applications, I think that would be the best thing. I think, I'm not particularly excited about reappointing someone or appointing someone who has been on a past city council. I definitely want someone who is community, who is new, who wants to participate. So on this item, I won't be making a motion. I won't be seconding the motion, but I definitely want to hear what the city council thinks at this moment.
Okay. Like what happened to Mr. Aregnas, not that he's not ready to vote or anything, but he's concerned more in terms that we should be maybe re-advertising because the people that are not necessarily the same ones applying, and therefore we should have more, more people applying.
It states on here that they
We have the motion and
No,
second.
I know, but he,
that they were
yeah, that's,
advertised.
I'm just repeating what he said, I think in his own words, but what I was gonna say to that, and since we have people apply, we should vote on it or not vote on it,
Mr. Mayor,
right? I mean, they applied.
Mr. Mayor, I think Ms. Romo seconded your motion.
The appointment is due already, isn't it?
Yeah,
No,
if we have
I understand.
I know there was a first, didn't get a second, so that motion failed. And then I know there was another motion. Is there a second to that?
Right.
Okay.
What
Yeah,
was the second motion?
I didn't capture it, but
There wasn't a second, it was just moved and somebody
Mr.
said
Moreno
something.
was Margaret Sauce and seconded for
No.
Romo, no?
There was no second yet.
Yes.
No, there was no second. We're waiting on a second
Miss,
until
The mo-
Mr. Gonzalez stepped up and wanted
Mayor,
to say something.
the motion to appoint Mr. Moreno died due to lack of second.
correct.
Yeah, that's that.
That's what we state.
Right.
You know, then Mr. Gonzalez
Right.
came up to the podium
Okay.
to speak on that.
Clarify. Yeah, that first motion did die just for lack of second, correct.
So unless nobody makes a motion, or even if we make motion, nobody votes, then it dies too.
Correct.
On the
Right now,
second- on the second
right now, the floor is open for a motion if somebody is interested in
But
making a
then
motion.
Mr. Arena was saying maybe we should just table it because that's also something.
Yeah,
that
that's
can be
part of the discussion. That's part of the deliberations by the city council.
Right. It's just a point he's bringing up.
Yeah, I'm not making a
Okay.
motion.
So at this point, the floor, there's been some comment, the
Right.
floor is open.
So if there's no discussion, would somebody want to make a motion to consider Margaret Salsa as commissioner? Then we'll bring it up.
Seconded.
So she brought it up. Is anybody going to second it?
But that was not like the city attorney saying what Mr. Moreno is mentioning, it's not a motion. He is asking if there is anybody interested to make a motion on it.
Okay, so he already made a motion, who's gonna second it?
That's what we're waiting. Isn't-
You're making a motion?
No,
I second it, but we need the motion to approve Margaret Sauce. I have a motion.
So you're making the motion, okay, correct. So we have a motion.
To approve Margaret Sauce.
Do we have a second on that
So
motion?
that's what we're waiting for a second.
Well, you know, let me go back before I make a
So we have a motion, so before we have deliberation on the motion, we need a second, otherwise it will die.
Okay, so I'll second.
Okay.
So we get to-
Now we have
Yeah,
deliberation.
okay. So on this also, I understand what Mr. Renania is bringing up, but we got to look at a few things. And I think we had this item come up before. And
you know, they have bylaws, you know, meaning the housing authority, right? And we are part of that, you know, yeah, at least that we get to appoint those commissioners. So we really need to, if we really want to, you know, consider, you know, maybe, you know, looking at the candidates, you know, opening this, but I think it should be throughout. It should be throughout, it should be even for our commissions. You know, because, I mean, here we are discussing that we should be opening this up. We should be looking at maybe at more people applying. I think I overheard someone saying qualifications, right? But if we're gonna do that for this commission, let's do it for everybody. And I think we were working on that, Miguel, you know, in creating a plan.
That is correct, sir.
If the housing authority has their bylaws, we also should have our bylaws that are very clear. So if we want to move forward with this, we should vote or table it. But we need to really get our act together on this item, but that applies to all the commissions. And not just be selective.
So at this point, we have a first and a second. If there's no further deliberations on the motion itself, then we will take a roll call.
Okay, so.
So if there's no other comments, then we'll take a roll call.
Okay, so all's in favor, Surena?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye, and aye too. So that's 5-0, motion carried.
Yeah, motion carries, correct.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That settles that. Thank you very much. Item number 18, approval of a resolution accepting the State of California Citizens Option for Public Safety, parentheses, COPS funds for fiscal year residual, and gross funds for fiscal year 2019-2020 for $67,226.96 in additional funding.
Mayor Moreno, this is an item that comes up on an annual basis. This is a state program, like you mentioned in the subject line, for which monies trickle down to the county, and from the county it comes to the cities. This specifically, as the staff report reads, would provide support for training of Calexico police officers and equipment. With that said, I do want to note that item 18 and 19 are similar. The only difference is the fiscal year. That is something that we don't control as to when the allocation comes. That's something that comes from the higher-ups in the other levels of government. It happened to be that our chief of police was informed of the allocation for fiscal year 1920 and 2021. So item 18 specifically is for 1920 and the amount of money the mayor read.
Okay.
So, discussion? Good.
First and second.
Well, okay, so Rosie makes a motion to approve as presented. Anybody second that?
Second.
Second was Romo, and then discussion.
Yeah, if the chief is here or whoever, so this is something that we get every year, right? So, and I was looking at, you know, that we were a little bit behind. So, what are some of the uses, chief, or whoever, you know, lieutenant or whoever, you know, can address it?
Good evening, everyone. Some of the uses that we use this money for, well, for the training and equipment, we're definitely going to be able to use it for laptops, gun belts, any of the safety equipment the officers use, even up to a vehicle. But since it's only $68,000, we don't have enough for a vehicle, so we're going to be using it for other items, and including training. Even though that we do get some reimbursement through post, not all the training is covered by post, so we're going to use some of that money to send some of our officers to instructor training, so we have in-house training, so we can continue training the other officers. On the $100,000, we could also use that money to augment a position or personnel if in case we need to do that, or also use it for equipment or training.
Okay. Question, I know that training always comes up for everybody. I know that, PD, fire, everybody, we all can benefit from training. Is there such a thing, kind of like what we usually use in other areas, kind of like train the trainer, where you will get someone to go out and be trained and then come back and train the rest of the officers? Would that be a component of that we can have, or we can use this money so to maximize? Again, I'm looking to maximize without also compromising, but I don't know if that would be an option. There's an option for a train the trainer type of approach.
Yeah, correct. So far, we have inside our department trainers, we have firearms instructors, we have resident control instructors, chemical agents instructors, and now we have just recently you guys approved, the city council approved a active threat instructor course that the officers went out to. So now we're going to bring all those instructors down here, so be able to, those officers create the training program, submit it to post to get post approval for reimbursement when we do have the officers actually take the courses within the department, and then get the reimbursement on the tuition, lodging, per diem, or even travel. Yeah. So that's one of the things that we are, right now what we are in dire need is driver's instructors. So we have a mandate by post that we require to have 24 hours of training every 2 years. The cycle started this year, and we need to have at least 4 hours of training in firearms, 4 hours of training in arrested control, 4 hours of training in driving. That comes up to 12, 2 hours, minimum of 2 hours of communications, and now they even added a use of force training that needs to be completed also. So far, we've used some of that training and some of that money that has been allocated on our budget to send officers training. With this additional $68,000, we're going to augment those funds so we could have those instructors in-house. And instead of sending an officer out to, say, LA or Sacramento to take the course, which might be an 8-hour, 12-hour course, we have our own instructors and be able to do it in-house and definitely reduce the expenditure on training.
Thank you. That was my point. Thank you. Glad to hear that.
You're welcome.
No more questions.
No more questions. Thank you. Let's go to, yeah. Anybody else? No? So, okay, so make a motion to approve as presented, item number 18. Second by Fernandez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carried. 5-0. Number 19, approval of a resolution accepting the State of California Citizens Option for Public Safety funds for fiscal year 2020-21, $100,000 in additional funding.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Mr. Ureña, second by Mr. Romo. All those, any discussion? No. No discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Now got to 19. We did call that a 19B. I guess
Yes.
you called it 19B?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. That was for the emergency item. Approve the attendance of Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and City Manager to the inauguration of City of Mexicali Mayor-elect Norma Bustamante.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve, second by Gloria. Any discussion?
No.
No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Las saludos de parte de todos.
5-0. And informational items. Mr. Gonzalez, you had a public.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for this policy. It's been a while. I'm here, Javier Gonzalez, representing Kennedy Gardens. I guess everybody in the city wants the speed bumps in their neighborhood. Mr. Miguel, if you can have a package of 20 applications, I can pick them up tomorrow because I hope a lot of them. I mean, I've been trying to help people and they ask me and I just provide them with the application, but it's a great idea. I just want to let you know that the mayor is on record in another administrator that our applications at Kennedy Gardens have been accepted, several denied. We understand Hernandez, the other ones, they're just too narrow, but we do understand that Espinosa, Robert Kennedy, and Zapata from Granero to CM Prairie have been approved, and we just want to thank you. We know there's no funding. We know you guys are having a problem with funding. Even if it takes a year, we're waiting for them. We do believe that we were told that we're approved. I don't know what the discussion is going to be today, but I want to thank you. More more speed signs, and those red lights, they do work, but like I tell everybody, it's just an individual decision. Sometimes I'm thinking of something else and I'm speeding, and I think it's everywhere. It's just individuals that are speeding, but this policy does help, and I want to thank you very much.
Mayor, this is an item that was requested at the last city council meeting. Ms. Falomir, I consider did a very good job in putting the item in perspective for all of us. I think some of the items that IID Director Gonzalez mentioned are factual. We actually have a policy. That policy was approved by City Council recently, and it's here as part of your backup. And based on the guidelines of such policy, there has been a determination for which of the 6 applications that we received, 3 are deemed to be eligible. And based on that, we on our end are going to work to make sure that we honor those applications after they've been vetted so we can actually do the installation. It's going to take a little organization on our end to determine when that's going to happen, but we'll make sure to keep you posted. If you have any specific questions or comments, Ms. Falomir is here with us today, so we'll be happy to address them.
I have a comment. One of the things that I shared this with you, Miguel, a while back. You know, when you install speed humps, you know, if you don't do them, you know, completely across the street or across the entire street, I mean, you leave one side open, right? And usually it's the opposite side. So, and you have cars going around it, and I think that creates, a concern, a concern. So, something to be looked at, when we're looking at that, and I'm pretty sure that, staff and the experts are looking at that, but please keep that in mind, because we do have some concerned citizens that happen to be, witness, and not just witness, but affected by that, behavior that, us, people drive, they go around, and you can have a head on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Anybody else?
Motion to acknowledge receipt.
Okay.
Mayor, can we have a motion to acknowledge receipt of the item, please?
I'm sorry?
Motion to acknowledge receipt of the item.
Motion to acknowledge receipt of the item?
Of the item? Motion to acknowledge?
To
Okay.
acknowledge receipt.
I'll second that motion.
Do we vote on that?
Yes, to acknowledge receipt. I think Mr. Garcia just made a motion.
Right.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Camilo Garcia, seconded by Councilmember Ureña.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, 5-0. Future item, agenda items? We'll start over here with my right. Ariola Fernandez? No? Ms. Garcia?
What I want to know, I know something that, Councilman Ureña mentioned earlier about meeting tomorrow with businesses and creating, or at least, considering some strategies to bring some, much needed activity and life to our downtown in certain areas. What I would like to see also is that, I know we have been thinking about the Chamber of Commerce, and we also have a bid commission. So I think, all those two components should be somehow tied into this, because as a business improvement district commission, they should be participants of this. I think also the chief alluded to, covering the parking meters. And again, all this ties in, right? If we want to have these activities, right, we want to bring people, but, parking and all these things. So my point to this is that I understand what the chief mentioned earlier, but also, and maybe he has a point that maybe it might not be December, right? It might be other months. But if we can go back, and I know our finance department director is not here anymore, but if we can look at, when are our higher, I guess, revenues from sales tax or something to identify, right? Because that's the first step that we can look at. And maybe that's when we can start projecting having these activities. And not just us, I really, commend you for thinking about that, but also we have to be very strategic. As a city, we have to also involve all the other partners. We can't really do these things ourselves, or put it on staff. I think we need to engage other partners. We need to maybe, check with the chamber. Let's see what they're doing. I think they were working on putting the chamber together. Maybe this can be a renaissance for the chamber activity. I know that also, and I know I'm just throwing ideas and maybe something. I know people have been asking, about, whether there's going to be a Christmas parade, what's going to happen with that, can we have something like that? I mean, should the city do that? I mean, all these things, I think we need to start thinking, engaging, whether it's the chamber, whether it's, big, or, community, merchants, all these things. So I think little by little, we should start, bringing back, some of that activity within, that COVID, still guidelines that we have to abide by.
Absolutely.
Question again, didn't the chamber, weren't they going to get together with the Brawley Chamber? Weren't they going to join powers?
So
Have you heard
my
anything?
understanding is that they are going through an approval process right now on their status with the state. And my understanding is that, yes, they have received support from the Greater Brawley Chamber.
Yeah.
And if anything, what they're looking at marketing is a Greater Calexico Chamber. So yes, and we should be expecting more information on that as they go through the legal front and the approval that they need to go through.
All right, thank you. Anybody here?
Yes, I would actually like to second Mr. Camilo Garcia's petition for a comprehensive plan for that downtown activity. I think he hits the nail right on the head. This ordinance is not. This ordinance will affect traffic patterns. This ordinance will affect all of the things he mentioned. For those new food truck businesses that we're going to involve, absolutely, a lot of them are going to be needing help with licensing, and yes, the Chamber of Commerce needs to be involved. So I definitely want to see that. The good thing about this is, as we're drafting the ordinance, that drafting and approval of the ordinance, I think will take minimum 1 or 2 months. Within that time frame, we can start prepping the auxiliary needs in some kind of comprehensive plan. And
If I may share some good news on that, Councilmember Ureña.
Sí.
I've actually been working with legal for the past 3 weeks on the food truck ordinance. So I think we'll be ready to present that either October 6th or October 20th.
Excellent.
Okay.
But I definitely still agree with
Sure, absolutely.
The petition made. I had a second item. It was requested prior for the analysis on potentially terminating community spectrum to redirect those funds into the city clerk, and an analysis also whether some of those IT costs incurred on that can actually come from ARPA as well, to meet our obligation to communicate with the community.
Noted.
Second this petition.
You have it, Romo?
Thank you. Yes, I to request, number one, Mr. Figueroa, it is urgent to present to this city council as soon as possible a general calendar of work to conclude with the asphalt painting that will be located on the border crossing of our historic center. And thank you to the non-profit organization Bloomberg. We have the money to do it, okay? And my second request is we need more social development programs for our community. Please present for our next meeting a general project on parks, recreation, sport, beautification and service for senior, and culture, art, and history, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Just two quick real items because we're running out of time here. I'll give an update on the Farm Worker Service Center next meeting. And also maybe perhaps we can have an update on the trailers. That's all. It is now 9:30 p.m. and I make a motion to adjourn. Anybody second that?
Second.
Second by Ms. Romo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.